Right, okay. Hello everyone. Assalamu alaikum. I hope everyone is doing well. Good evening, good evening, good evening. It is the 8th of April, Thursday. It is currently 21 o'clock, 21:03 here in Denmark. I hope everyone is doing great. Thank you, it's cold. That's very useful information. I'll try to remember that. We have some news today. I have done some very minimum preparation. We'll probably, because I think I'll only be streaming for about 3 hours today. Only about 3 hours. And then after that, we'll, we're only going to stream for about 3 hours today, I think. So we will probably rush through some of the things, like the intro stuff. It'll be a somewhat like chill, like an extra chill informal stream. What did the doc say? The doc, actually, it was not about my lungs, so they haven't said anything. I guess, yeah, for personal news, I had my an x-ray taken of my lungs, and I'm going to the doctor in about a week for that. This week, my appointment today was just about, like, my medicine, like my ADHD meds. And also some blood samples I had taken, and basically I've been recommended, like, oh, I should eat these things, and I should also get fish oil, omega-3 tablets. I need to buy those at some point, and some other stuff. I also found out I'd lost weight, which is neat. So yeah, good stuff overall. What else was I gonna say? I think that's more or less it. I think that's more or less it. I hope everyone's doing great. Let us move on. Again, this time I prepared in advance. It's not just well. So, for the news today, well, in case you guys haven't seen it already, Trump said some insanely genocidal shit, basically saying, oh yeah, we're going to remove Iranian civilization from the face of Earth or some shit like that, which is, you know, literally genocidal. And of course, like, Western allies are gonna, like, they're not gonna say much about this, but they're gonna keep being like, oh, blah, blah. But, you know, they're very loud about whenever their enemies, like Iran, the evil Islamic regime, they say something or do something. But, you know, when the US literally is calling for, like, yeah, we're going to bomb civilian infrastructure and, like, break, you know, be very public about, you know, breaking the Geneva Conventions and shit like that, you know. That's fine. That's okay. Are they going to put his tweet up on the screen?
Deal or its civilian infrastructure will be decimated by US forces. The president insists he will not budge on his Tuesday deadline. On Monday, he reiterated threats against Tehran, warning that the country would be left without any power plants or bridges if they fail to make a deal. Earlier, Iran
I don't like that. It's annoying that they didn't put the tweet or truth or whatever the fuck up on the screen. They should have done that. That would have been nice. But yeah, that's the gist of it. That's what he said. Very messed up. And yeah, it's not just lovely. Western ally, by the way. And, you know, because a ceasefire has been announced, as Israel usually do, when a ceasefire is, like, planned, they then just go, they get in a few, like last, like, the most maximum damage bombs possible.
After Israel,
like, they need to commit war crimes, so then they're like, yeah, well, we can't really do war crimes for a little while, so they go and commit as many as they can in, like, this short span of time, until the ceasefire goes into effect.
Lebanon is not included in the 2-week truce between the United States and Iran. Lebanon has come under intense Israeli assault.
Lebanon is not included. Okay, great.
People have been killed or injured. And Israel says it's the biggest attack since the war against Iran and Hezbollah began at the end of
We gotta beat that cuff, yes.
Hezbollah has so far refrained from launching any rockets across the border since the deal was reached. In the last couple of hours, Israel has been carrying out multiple airstrikes on Beirut's southern suburbs. The Lebanese health ministry says hospitals are overflowing with victims. The assault targeted densely populated residential areas, causing extensive damage. Southern Lebanon also has come under repeated attack since the US-Israeli ceasefire with Iran, and this includes a strike on the southern city of Tyre after Israel issued forced evacuation threats for people living there. Israel's attacks and expanding invasion in the south of Lebanon has forced 1.2 million people from their homes. And overnight, Israeli airstrikes killed at least 8 people in the coastal city of Sidon. That's also in the south of Lebanon. Let's cross to Noraday, who's following developments.
I think it's very unfortunate that Lebanon is excluded from the ceasefire. I find that pretty disappointing of Iran. Like, yeah, I'm just disappointing in Iran if that is true.
In the occupied West Bank. So, Israel, it seems, determined to continue on the Lebanese.
Like, really just leaving their allies behind.
How it ties in.
If you need anything or want me to look for any links, let me know. Will do. Thank you. Thank you very much for your call. Much appreciated.
Well, it ties in because it could do one of two things for the embattled Israeli prime minister. It could, at the very least, disconnect Lebanon, the Lebanon front from the negotiations between Iran and the United States. Israel doesn't want to seem like it is receiving orders, like it does not have any say, especially when it comes to the Lebanese front. So it wants to disconnect those two fronts, even though when Israel started launching attacks on Lebanon and Hezbollah at the beginning of this war, it treated Lebanon as part of its war front against Iran. The other thing that it could do, which could
basically they want to genocide Max. Like okay, yeah, we know there's a ceasefire with Iran, which actually can do a lot of damage to us, but now that that's sort of in place, we might have some semi-peace, I guess. At least we can focus on genociding the Lebanese people, specifically the Shia Muslims. But I'm sure they would not mind getting some extras in there as well.
Israeli Prime Minister sabotage the deal between Tehran and Washington, a deal that is costing the Israeli Prime Minister a lot of political support. In fact, not even his usual supporters have come out to cheer a supposed victory achieved through this deal. The head of the Israeli opposition has called it a colossal, catastrophic, historical, strategic defeat for Israel, and not just because this war would end and it would maintain Iran as a player in the region from an Israeli perspective, but because Israel was not on the table. Israel did not want this deal. It certainly did not.
They did not want this deal because, Israel is like very much it's like Nazi Germany. It's a very genocidal state. Like, does not matter. Like, I don't give a shit about like democratic values and shit. Like, the way this country works, it's not democratic anyways because it's an apartheid state. Like, they built society in such a way that, they will not be happy if Iran has not been balkanized, if it's not been like turned into something like Libya. Like, they would not be happy. And the same goes for it's insanely bloodthirsty, like this way of thinking. It's insanely fucked up. And still Western countries are like guys, just like keep a lid on it a little bit so we can normalize relations. Like, it's this is what we're supporting in the West. This is what, like, a capitalist liberal democracy, this is what we get.
Want to tie all of these things together, and it didn't want to see its voice muted. The approach of Israel to all ceasefires, let's just remember, is that when a ceasefire is imposed, Israel retains the right to target the country or the group with which it reached a ceasefire. We see that in Gaza. We saw that with Hezbollah after the 2024 war, and Israel was trying to get to that same formula even with Iran. None of that has happened, and now Netanyahu is trying to fend for himself. His defense minister promising even more attacks. But looking at the map of where those attacks have taken place in terms of the sectarian divide and the sectarian composition of Lebanon, one begins to tie that with discussions in Israel about needing to fan the flames of pressures and strife inside Lebanon, because perhaps that could present Israel with a plan B so that the Lebanese would deal with Hezbollah and not having more soldiers lost in the battles, which are quite fierce in southern Lebanon.
And no, just give us a little more context of the of Benjamin.
So yeah, that's the gist of it. Also, other news. I believe J.D. Vance, the American Vice President, he was in Hungary. which is quite funny. And the reason for that, he was in Hungary, like, you know, not exactly a too relevant state for European politics for all the wrong reasons. Basically, it's an insanely poor country. The economy is just like shattered, and all that, and like, you know, for, you know, the faults of the West and, you know, the global apartheid it's upholding, it does like generally guarantee some level of liberty and whatnot for its own citizens. And Hungary has very much gone back on all of these things under Viktor Orban, a far-right leader. And it looks like he might be voted out in this upcoming election. I don't know much about him. I don't know much about like his the guy he's going up against, like his opponent. But I'm thinking maybe tomorrow or the day after we'll do like a little stream looking into the Hungarian election. Maybe we'll look into, I think Rote made a video about him, and Rote covers some European politics, so that could be neat. We'll have a look at that. If he has a video about it, I'm not sure. I think he mostly posts on TikTok. But yeah, so that's fun. Fun stuff. I think these are the main like news stories of the, what do you call it? Let me just like check if Al Jazeera has anything else that I missed. Yeah, he says ceasefire with Iran will not include Hezbollah. Just attack civilians. Beirut resident recounts horror of Israeli strike on Lebanon. Of course, Israel loves striking civilians. They do. Israel has a great, very precise military, which is why they precisely strike civilians. It's not even like indiscriminate bombing of like areas where they don't care if they hit civilians. Like straight up, they want to kill civilians. Like it's on purpose, which is very fucked up and provable and been proven. But hey, it's okay. It's only democracy in the Middle East. Right. I think what we'll do. Oh, nice. View is sponsored. Good for them. That's awesome. Political Europe polls Hungary. Oh, nice. Yeah, let's have a look at that. I'm not sure how good Politico is in Europe. Also, this is insanely bright. Good grief. Also, what is it with all websites having this shit-ass design? Like, why is half my screen empty? Like, it's fine when I'm streaming, because, you know, the chat is, like, over here on the right side. But, like, I'm not on my phone. I hate when it's like when the design is like this. I guess this is one of the better examples, but still. Okay, so TISA, Respect and Freedom Party, I believe that's the opponent, versus Hungary, like Fidesz. I'm assuming Fidesz. I'm pretty sure Fidesz is like Viktor Orban's party. So yeah, TISA having like nearly 50%. That's a lot. That's insane. Good grief. There are very few parties in the parliament. That is weird to me. That is very weird to me. I have no idea what these other ones are about. The only like indication here from like this, like, it has almost no information for outside people. Like, this is really, in my opinion, a very shit article. Well, maybe not a shit article, but not a great article by Politico. Because it doesn't really give any information on these different parties. The only information it gives here are like the names, like their English names, and the EP, which is the European Parliament affiliation, which gives some idea about like what the politics are. Our Homeland movement, I assume, is like insanely far right. Democratic Coalition can be literally anything, but usually I think that would be center right, maybe center left. Hungarian two-tailed dog party, like what the fuck is that supposed to mean? Like, what does that mean? Like, what am I supposed to think seeing that, you know? So yeah. But at least, like, it is nice though that you can like switch between different what do you call it, different polls like this from different countries. I will say, okay, that's well done on Politico's part. Would be nice if they had a little bit more information about these parties here. The EPP, are they the center left in the EU? I don't quite recall. EPP group. EPP group is the biggest and largest group in the European Parliament. Oh, okay, yeah, the center right group of the European Parliament. Okay, nice. So, nice. The left wing opponent against Viktor Orban are center right. I'm sure that will fix things. I'm sure that will be a long-term fix for the shit going on in Hungary. Okay, I predict what we're going to find out tomorrow or the day after, whenever I stream next, is that we're going to learn that, understandably, Viktor Orban's has been doing worse. Like, whether or not he wins, he's been doing worse because he's like, a kleptocrat, like aggressively kleptocratic, right-wing, whatever. Does right-wing policies, and right-wing policies are usually shit, or rather always shit, and that's why he's unpopular. But the party coming in is not going to be much better, and so they might, like, even if they win, they're probably just going to revert anyways. Hello, Attack Pingu, how are you doing? These in the super right-wing, by the way, the AfD on there, as far as I know. Yeah, no, the EPP. Oh wait, ESN? Or do you mean ESN or EPP? Because I was referring to the EPP. Is the ESN a group in the European Parliament? EU Parliament. Because I do remember there's a more right-wing group in the European Parliament. I at least think so. Yeah, no, it is. Europe of Sovereign Nations Group. Like, also, like, why are all the names so shit? Like, I believe, actually, let's open the European Parliament. That could be fun as well, someday, having, like, a learning about European Parliament stream. So, European Parliament, blah, blah, blah. If I recall correctly, at least, if I recall correctly, like, the European Parliament, for, all the faults of the EU as an institution, they have pretty good websites. Like, pretty good website design, from what I recall. 8 political groups here. So the EPP group, the European People's Party, is Christian Democrats, aka, center right. S&D, which I think is like the Social Democrats, yep. And like, it's funny actually, if you check the S&D TikTok, you will see that they're like, oh look, the leader of Spain, he like, his party is part of the S&D. Isn't that just cool? And if you do that, you'll see they don't really have a lot of motion. But I've gotten the TikToks up on my feed, so you'll check the comments, and then you'll see me being like, "You guys are wankers," calling them out for being like dipshits. Because I'm pretty sure he's the only like leader of a social democrat party. Self-ascribed Social Democrat Party in Europe, which is against the obvious imperialism of the West, specifically the US and whatnot, and like says good things about Palestine and whatnot. I need to learn more about like his actual party. I'm sure they're not that great, but maybe they are. Either way, like, it seems like they're not moving in a right-wing direction versus, at least relative to the rest of Europe. Anyways, PFE, Patriots, I assume these are just like neo-Nazis. Patriots for Europe, like this, what is it? It's national sovereignty, secure borders, economic stability, and the protection of free speech. That's like the independent decision-making by nations, oppose further centralization of power in the EU, call for strict measures against illegal immigration, preserve cultural identity. Yep, these are the Nazis. And for people, in case anyone ever sees this and goes, whoa, he's calling people saying that they want to protect their culture, Nazis. No, I'm saying that that's a dog whistle. That's a way of saying, like saying that you want to protect European culture by stopping illegal immigration. That's you just being, I don't want brown people around. They might intermarry. If I have a daughter, they'll like a brown person. And that will ruin my heritage. No, that's usually the type of person who says that. It's like, at the very, like, as a minimum level of racism. European conservatives and reformists, that's What? Okay, okay, it would be very fun to read more about these different political groups in the European Parliament, because what the fuck do you mean? Sorry for swearing. European conservatives and reformists. Conservative being literally means that you are against reform, because you're conservative. Like, reform to you means that you want to go back, like degress, or like, what do you call it? Like a degenerate or something. I don't know the word for. What's the opposite of progressive? I don't know. I mean, the opposite of progressive is conservative, so I don't know. And, you know, reforming usually means progressive. I don't know what the okay, this is stupid. Okay, this looks like a... What is this page? This, like, looks like a company page. So I think this is just, like, the company group. Like, this is just the company political party. I mean, almost all of them are. I would say, like, the only exception really being, like, Greens, EFA, and the left. Which, like, at least, like, the left, like, the Greens and the left, the only two which have, like, a somewhat, you know, like a normal name of all these. I guess, like, I don't know, like these two names are descriptive. The other ones also are, some of them are descriptive, other ones, like, not really, though you can guess Renew Europe, like that kind of, like, doesn't say anything, and usually that means, like doesn't say anything other than, we don't like how things are right now, and we need to, like, remake the country, or, like, whatever this area is in a way we won't specify. AK, that's, like, far right in some way. I don't remember if Renew Europe are, like, straight up Nazis or, like, just very far right or something. Could go either way. ESN sovereignists sounds very stupid, but that's not that surprising. Oh, there you go. Also political groups of the European Parliament. Here we have an idea of how big these groups are. The left is very small, only 46 out of 720. That's, like, less than 10%. So that's awesome. And when I say awesome, I mean not. Even the Greens are bigger than us, because Europeans are very heavily indoctrinated, and so they think that, oh yeah, we just need green politics and then everything will be a-okay. Yeah, you can tell this is, like, kind of like, you know, not center left, but, like, very, like, too parliamentary left, like, web design. Like, this reminds me a lot of, like, what do you call it? The web design of, or, you know, just, like, the general design reminds me of, like, the furthest left in the parliament, political party in Denmark, who are good, relatively speaking, but failing in a lot of areas. Company page fitting, lol. Yes, our lives are in Renew Europe, but that is for Bulgaria, so consider them very right wing. Yeah, exactly. Like, and in general, like, when you see just, when you see parliamentary politics, it's pretty, you would not be, like, 70 to 80% of the time, if you assume that someone is, like, center right, you'd be correct. Because again, like, what is it? Like, the S&D, like the Social Democrat coalition, or, like, a political group, but, like, even that is, like, barely, what, 20%? Like, it's not even 20% here of the European Parliament. They have people, like, they have groups like the Danish Social Democrats in them, and the Danish Social Democrats are literally the most right wing. Like have literally led being the most right wing on issues such as immigration, like, in Europe. Immigration and refugees. Insanely racist. We should actually go over, like, how racist we have policies in Denmark. The Greens. Neat. Discover EU 26, your guide to traveling by train for free this summer. I mean, that's neat. The left could have some of that. I think the left and Greens, like, they work together now and then. The thing is, I don't really trust Green parties at all. The only Green party I trust in Europe is the one in the UK. My experience with Green parties is, like, they're just kind of, like, either unserious. Like, to me, they're just, usually there's some level unserious because they're like, yeah, we care about the environment, but they don't actually want to combat capitalism, which is, if you want to fix, like, if you want to help the environment, you need to combat capitalism. Otherwise, you cannot help the environment. Like, you'll not be allowed to. Like, we'll get what we have now, which, like, do you guys remember? Because it was a huge deal. Like, climate change was a huge topic, like, a few years ago when I was growing up. Like, it was like growing, and everyone was talking about it, and Greta Thunberg and all that shit. And now, nothing. We have like green credit things which are used in like the most nefarious ways to like avoid actually helping the environment. Awesome. Countries are not held to accountability and so on and so forth. And that's not something you can reform your way out of, but that's another discussion. The point is, like, if you don't fix capitalism, you can't fix this. Yet they're still bigger than the left in the EU, and that's probably something we can talk about at some point. Why the left, just like why left-wing politics are very weak in Europe, or most of Europe. And there are various different reasons for this, but the main one, like one of the main issues I would say that I've encountered a lot of is basically a lot of sectarianism. Ever since the fall of the USSR, because the USSR supported some parties, which then did great, like, and also like a lot of the money spent on anti-communism was spent directly on the USSR instead of like all the time being on the left. But that's also, was also spent on the left. Like the Social Democrats literally spied on the Communist Party back in the day, fun shit. Anyways, this is a topic we should explore at some point. I'm tired of looking at European politics. I don't like European politics because I don't like most politics. Except I do like politics, but I don't like where things are going. Okay.
Then we were advocating for that. We were advocating for the
Himbo is streaming.
And we got maligned.
Is he watching an interview or speaking with someone?
Earlier on, we thought that perhaps they
guest Trita Parsi, co-founder VP of Kinsey Institute. Oh shit, okay, he's interviewing someone.
We're in another wave in which
let us watch this and play some Satisfactory. How does that sound, guys? Is that a great idea? I think it's a great idea.
That folks are once again realizing we really got to change. Not acceptable, particularly now when you have a candidate that actually won his election twice based on rallying around ending forever wars and maligning the rest of the Republican Party for having gone along with it, and yet he himself is now
it is Satisfactory time.
Not only has started this war, he's done a regime change in Venezuela. He's threatened to annex Greenland and potentially even Canada. So I think there's a reaction.
No, not Canada.
That is coming.
Not Greenland. Not our Danish colony, which I should do actually something about, like the ways we are just awful to Greenland. We should watch actually Fred's video on it. During one of the longest streams, we'll do that. Well, European politics is the best. Yeah. Dude, learning about politics is depressive. It's so depressive. Okay, anyway, Satisfactory. Give me just a moment.
Obviously, one of the main
side of Himbo
so far has been this quagmire that we found ourselves in Iran. Now, it's not a secret that both Benjamin Netanyahu and Israeli foreign policy has always wanted to get the United States of America and the administration to play ball with them, to finally,
I just realized
go to war with Iran. It kind of feels like, and I want to hear
something.
It kind of feels like the Israeli objectives here were somewhat at odds.
I'll say it after Himbo is done.
The broader American objectives are
saying whatever.
Change, have a pliant regime or a pliant government that will play ball with the United States of America, whereas Israel's objectives here broadly seem to me to revolve around complete destabilization,
yes,
creating a failed state in Iran.
Yeah, I agree. I think Hassan has a good assessment on this. I think so too.
Of the balkanization,
the US wants more money for capital, more oil, that wants to consolidate money.
There's never a solid
Israel just
state
want
there, or
like just
even
it's just devolved completely into just
an
genocide.
American puppet state there that could inevitably turn on Israel once again. As
Like
it,
truly a
goes
great
along with this
example
greater
of
Israel project.
what
Do
it
you
is
agree with
capitalism
that
needs to
assessment? Do you have any
report.
input on
I
that?
literally took a politics and human rights class in high school and literally stopped doing activism for years.
Add perhaps a bit of detail
That
on it.
is very real. Activism is important though. I think it's, you know, it's good. Do activism, guys.
Either get the collapse of the Iranian regime,
Get involved as much as you have, as much as you can muster.
you know, perhaps a Venezuela scenario in which
And you can get involved in so many ways. Like even you can be at home and do activism, I would say. Like that's also an option. If that's like, if you can't get out there, that's totally fine.
to essentially establish a balance in the region that gives Israel
Something I've been trying to do, I've been wanting to set up for a while, but I have not had time. It's like a virtual meeting group.
I wrote my dissertation on Israeli
but like I've just not had time, and also now dealing with some shit. So I'm not sure if it'll be a productive use of my time.
But then Iran turned into
Lots of things I have to reconsider, and we'll see like how much I'll talk about that. Still thinking about that shit.
And as a result, Israel's focus is going to be on the capabilities and capacity of Iran rather than on the nature. So it doesn't matter if it's suddenly
Object scanner.
Regime there, because the fear is that regime may fall.
Oh, neat.
Replaced with another regime. And if the country then is in good
Oh, that's
shape,
cute.
has the capabilities, has a strong military, that could be
Oh,
a
and
challenge to Israel's
Imbo immediately dying. Let me just close a bunch of the windows.
very clearly in their idea of how this war is won. It's just about degrading as much as possible. Bomb them back to the Stone Age, and then, if you need to,
just a moment.
For 2 years, you bomb them again. This is what they are pursuing against almost all of their immediate neighbors. In Gaza, in Lebanon, in Syria, we've seen it. They call it mowing.
Why is it not working? Damn it. Okay, I need. Maybe if I turn down the satisfactory a little bit, it'll be okay. Also, I've not set up the thing yet, which is annoying. I apologize, guys. Track 12 or track 11 deprecated. Oh, we don't want to do that. Okay, let's do low graphics.
Now, as this continues, it nevertheless
Hopefully that'll be okay.
in a perpetual state of warfare, not just with its immediate neighbors, but increasingly with more
Oh,
states.
it just needs to
Iran
load
was a
things.
challenge. It is at war with Iran now, hoping to degrade
Yeah, okay, definitely looks less crisp in many ways, but that'll be worth it, I think.
Guess what happened? Suddenly in Israel, you had started to have more and more commentaries from senior people, former prime ministers, saying that Turkey is the next target.
Yeah.
Turkey is now the most dangerous country in the region. Erdogan is the most dangerous person in the region. And the very same type of a campaign of painting Turkey as a source of instability, the most dangerous country in the region, you know, unchecked, it's a threat to Western
Yeah, it is very funny that they're doing that when fucking Israel is that right there. Like, it is another thing. Europeans just love to focus on like Muslims every time. Like, this obvious, like very obvious racism for those who know, like for those who can tell. When like literally your ally is doing, like your other allies are much worse. Turkey mentioned, let's go.
Underwriting that choice. It is the United States, because Israel is not a country powerful enough to be able to sustain that type of a policy. The only reason why it can be sustained is because of a constant level of military, political, diplomatic, and economic support from the United States. In fact, it's written into American law. We have in the United States a law that says that Israel has to have the qualitative strategic edge in the region. That we make sure that no countries in the region get the best type of weapons. The best type of weapons the U.S. produces goes to Israel, and everyone else gets a second or third rate kind of weapons in order to ensure that we sustain.
They literally have nukes in Turkey.
Strategic qualitative edge.
Yes.
Yeah. We also set back other regional actors that we have security
Much like Israel.
agreements with, like Lebanon.
No,
Lebanon
you know,
mysteriously doesn't have any
the US, like it's like Western nukes, like American
I
nukes
feel like it's impossible to maintain
in Turkey.
sovereignty without anti-air defense.
Like kept for America.
Realize what Israel is doing in southern Lebanon.
And Israel has like their secret fucking
why
nukes.
America has refused,
At least the game, okay, the game runs a lot better right now.
Standing military military has any sort of serious capacity to purge invading forces, because that invading force is always going to be Israel.
Indeed, and also take a look at what the U.S.
Inshallah, will keep growing, and I'll upgrade my setup so I don't have to look. So part of my view is not obscured by a microphone with a sock on it.
And in order to do so, the U.S. has been willing to help the Lebanese army become powerful enough to take on Hezbollah, but not powerful enough to be able to deter an Israeli attack. So we're ensuring that type of a perpetual weakness in all of the areas around Israel in order for Israel to have that sense of security. Which
Look, we have a chainsaw, guys.
To feel secure, wait. Everyone else have to feel insecure.
Yeah.
True. Correct.
So let's talk about the military objectives here, right? The United States of America, led by Donald Trump, has had a lot of inconsistent messages on why this war was supposed to be waged on.
I wonder if we can use this on animals.
It was because Israel was going to attack with or without us, and therefore we had to go in and do a first strike through perfidy once again, just like what took place in the 12-day war.
I wonder. Okay. Also, another thing I've been thinking about is like moving away from watching
U.S. television
Hassan live, like moving a little bit more away from it, and instead like just watching. Oh, mushrooms.
Enriched uranium.
Instead, like what do you call it?
The enriched uranium.
The fruit of this fungus like
Iran
flora
is
does
Fuck,
not
what was it?
seem
Like
to
watch videos on YouTube or something,
for leverage.
and then like we'll watch Hassan live when like he does some like particularly interesting stuff. But otherwise, just have it be in video form, because that's also easy to pause and stuff, move around in the video and shit like that.
That were implemented on Iran. And they're obviously.
What do you guys think? Actually, what's it called? Can you do a poll in chat and basically just ask people if
they let their criticisms be known and be heard, and
if they
Congress were also antagonistic to Barack Obama's
if they prefer if they want Hassan live right now, I'll put on a video, or actually do 5 different options. One is like I want to watch Hassan, the other one is I prefer Hassan but I don't mind. The other two would be want to watch a video, or prefer video but I don't mind, and then the last one being I don't mind either way.
That was also part of the negotiations process as well. The idea that they had to
hello combustible 6767 lemon
strike capabilities
meow to you too.
Kilometers suspiciously outside of the range of Israel and Tel Aviv.
Oh, also at some point 676767.
Iran also closed up the Strait of Hormuz, which 20% of the entire globe's energy.
Look at this beautiful, majestic creature.
This is something that they had the
I should not look at it with the chainsaw in hand. That looks a little bit messed up.
Years is part of the reason why
I promise I don't hate animals.
In the aftermath of the Iranian Revolution.
I would Hassan if he's not covering news or doing something I'm specifically looking for, but I'm not super picky. Alright. I don't imagine most people mind Hassan because, where's the head? That's the head right there. Actually, now that you think about it, this kind of reminds me of Hassan, Boing indeed.
In tolls that they're going to be separate.
Can I jump on the head? I can.
That they're going to be sharing with Oman as well.
Okay, I need to like land somewhere, but I'm going to break my feet. Love bouncing.
Not only the Gulf states that
sure you do. It's one of my favorite stims. Okay, yeah, fair. Real. That is very real.
And also Israel as well.
I think I used to do that a lot as a child.
Israel has looked like. But all of this has been.
Though I don't know if that's because was a child or because autism.
Yesterday, Donald Trump
Under the Virgin's father.
That he was going to do genocide. He was going to eliminate.
Okay, let's get an angle on this.
Entire Iranian civilization. He was going to snuff them out.
Look at it.
And then by nighttime,
the big penguin something creature. Like literally when I jumped on it, there was like a hey, I got an achievement, which 40% of players have, which is a lot.
They were actively trying to
bounce on space giraffe tick penguin thing.
How they've postured so far.
That'll be yum.
Do you feel like that was because they have failed to achieve their military objectives? And where do we go from here? Sorry, it's a long question, but I want to give a little bit of background to my audience as well.
No, I think there's no doubt that.
And yeah, I get that. Like, I usually like the thing the way I'm running things right now is if Hassan is covering something I don't like I don't really care about too much when I'm streaming, then I'll just like move over to us watching a video. That's what I've usually been doing.
So, you know, he had ended up going into something in which he no longer was in control of. And you know,
let's continue with this interview and then pick something afterwards. When it's covering American democracy, I kind of tune out, not gonna lie. That's fair. I can see Americans enjoy it. I enjoy it as well as a European, and the reason for that is that to me, American politics are very like these are the politics directing, or like this is the politics of the country that's directing European politics. That's like they direct the limits of European politics, you know.
Disagreements and lack of accurate information of what exactly.
And a lot of what happens in American politics is replicated in in other Western politics as well.
That in the course of exchanges of messages,
American politics with Trump and foreign policy is usually defined by haters election/electoralism coverage. That's fair.
Trump even said that this is a reasonable.
It's your energy. That's fair.
So
that's very real. I mean, depressive things are sad. I think I'm just like kind of, I don't know, like maybe, I don't know what aspect of my personality is due to it. I'm thinking it's a mixture of neurodivergence and also, you know, growing up as a Muslim, of immigration, like immigrant background. Like I think I'm just very desensitized to things being bad, because they're always bad, you know. Like I would say a consistent radicalizing element of me growing up is like, you know, going to Bangladesh, you know, and we are not rich. We are not rich in Denmark, and we were much poorer when I was younger, growing up. Not poor per se, but you know, not well off for sure. In the lower wealth parts of Danish society. But even then, you know, went to Bangladesh, and I always remember seeing like a lot of beggars, a lot of people who are like have some physical deformity, or a lot of people just like very, very thin and stuff like that.
Groups in the axis of resistance in 2024.
Seeing that with your own eyes, like it ensures that you are aware. It guarantees some level of awareness.
Secondly, I think there's also a recognition on the Iranian side that as long
and like things are much better now, alhamdulillah, I'm very happy about that. But I'm always like that will not go on forever, because it is still, you know, a capitalist country. Whether under the dictator or, you know, under a so-called democracy. Like, I don't believe you can vote your way to socialism. And if you don't, and again, and if you're not under socialism, like if society is not set up in some type of socialist way, then it is going to lead to fascism.
The third point may actually be the most important. This demand is there to test whether the United States is willing and capable of reigning in Israel. Because if it isn't...
Hello, Chanandis. Coming in with the third. Almost an hour into the stream. What is that? Bird! Oh, oops. Is this satisfactory? Yes. Wait, did we set the game?
Because the Iranians have reached a point
fresh.
They actually don't necessarily want to.
No, we didn't. Oops.
Trusting these agreements, they're trusting that there should be enough distance so that it
there you go.
deters the US and from attacking, rather than there.
Wait, both fast button stream elements. Okay, we need to pick one or the other, I think.
Yeah. So let's talk about that element, right?
Okay, I need to do that at some point.
I've said from the beginning.
Where's my
that,
phone?
Given the diverging or conflicting interests of Israel and the United States of America,
Manage your stream from your phone. Blah 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 blah.
Regardless of how both parties have communicated their desires, America has to rein Israel in. And this is not just the Iranian demand. This is just what has to happen in this situation.
I like that you're saying hi to everyone, Janandis. That's very cute.
Feel like
that's really pleasant.
Possible at all? Because since the so-called
I want to up graphics a little bit.
Obviously, Iran continued strikes as well on Tel Aviv. That could have been because of the way that the Mosaic defense has been structured. It's decentralized.
Can I drag just like one?
It could have been for some other reason. We don't know. I'd like to hear your perspective on that. But also, Israel started bombing other parts of Lebanon, as they are known to do. And I think a direct effort to spoil what this ceasefire could potentially look like.
Wait, maybe I should not try with the berries. Maybe I should try with the nuts instead.
As a matter of fact, there's some reporting that came out that suggested that Israel did not even know that this ceasefire negotiation was on the verge of being signed until the very last moment, and they were very frustrated by it.
Israel's just like, no, we want to commit genocide now.
So do you feel like
what the fuck? We want to destroy the Iranian state.
Try to restrain Israel. Where do we go?
America, how could you?
Ceasefire gone? Is it over? What do you think?
So on the first question, I think it's really crucial. It's like, can the
this is more survivalist than Factorio.
I think it's actually a real.
I don't think so. Like, this game is a lot more peaceful than Factorio. Because you'll fight some things now and then, but they're not near the level of threat. Like, they will not come seek you out. Like, you are the one seeking them out. Well, in Satisfactory, I mean, technically, it is, still you seeking them out, but they will come in waves and attack you now and then. Look.
For implementing that and pushing through that, given the fact that there's going to be a lot of resistance, there's you're going to have to deal with a lot of lobbies,
where's the doggo?
That are putting Israeli interests,
where did it go?
Arguably in front of U.S. interests, etc.
Where did it go?
The real issue is.
Where's the lizard doggo? Where's your factories though? It's elsewhere. Oh, my fuse blown. Okay, we'll go to the factories after I've found the lizard doggo. There we go.
I mean, to me, it's just stunning.
I just see unclean nature. Also, I don't like the graphics right now are not looking that great.
The head of counterterrorism center. I mean, he's laying
nature needs development. True.
Specific things that the United States needs to take away from Israel as part of this ongoing support.
Come on.
To the Israelis that the US is absolutely serious.
I can't wait till we unlock the bolt gun.
We have the very famous example of how Reagan told Menachem Begin, you got to get out of Lebanon because the
hello. No, don't worry. I'm chill. Come over here.
Was reaching American
we scattered.
A lot of American, upsetting Reagan himself.
Okay, how do I?
On the phone, and he said, "You got to stop doing. You got to pull out." And when Menachem Begin,
how do I split it into like smaller stacks? Like,
said, well,
I want to split it into ones and stuff, not
F-16s at the time that the Israelis were buying. And 20 minutes later, Menachem Begin calls.
Are you fucking bunny hopping in a casual game? Yes. No, actually, like, have you played a Warframe? That is like the optimal way of travel until you get. I mean, even after you get vehicles for a long time, like for a while. Okay. Hello. Hello, I won't hurt you. There you go. We taped it. Look. There you go.
To the Emir of Qatar.
There we go.
When the Israelis denied that this happened,
we tamed it.
Showing that this was being done.
Isn't that adorable? Also, how are the audio levels, guys?
It cannot be episodic. If you want
oh wait, I need to change the text at the top. It still says news and stuff. Give me just a moment. Properties.
Absolutely. They do. America does have this power, and rarely choose to enforce it. Especially
Watching Hassan and
we have
been
satisfactory. We've, I think, changed.
By the way,
the dynamic in this relationship.
If you guys would like to become helpers in the factory,
policy specifically,
send an application
it's obvious that it's no longer
just write an application on Discord and we'll make it into content. Like I'll read them out loud and then maybe we'll interview you guys on stream. That could actually, yeah, that would be very fun. Hassan stream could be a lot of it. Okay.
Valuable to
Thank
the
you.
petrodollar, far more reliable as far as trillions
Is this good or do you want more?
Investment into American companies.
Right, what name?
The fact that Israel can so easily
the male fucking
and turn these American bases into
the temptation just call it Pog Stalin. I won't. I will not do that. I'll not do that.
Implies that America's willing
it's a bit low compared to you.
To take a loss here, a spectacular loss. Both
it's supposed to be lower than me, so I can speak over it. But if it's still too low, then I'll turn it up. If I turn up the volume to hear him, you are way too loud. Ah, I see. There you go. This is better.
Going to be far more consequential. I'll give you a perspective that I doubt that you've heard from anyone, though. I think that America getting a bloody nose in this situation is not necessarily a bad thing.
Chat show and speaking host.
Because I think it will force the United States of America to be a little bit more restrained in our endless endeavors of empire and imperialism. And I think that's ultimately going to lead to a hardened multipolarity that will force America to reconsider how aggressive we are in our force projection around the globe, and maybe even recycle some of the endless amounts of dollars that we spend on our military-industrial complex, and instead, hopefully, you spend that on ourselves, on our fixing our potholes, hardening our infrastructure. Maybe even Medicare for all, things of that nature. That's my perspective. I want to hear what you think about that.
Everyone.
And then the other question, the follow-up question to that will also be, do you feel like this is different than the military quagmire in Iran, in Iraq, Vietnam, Afghanistan, and why?
So on your first question, it actually goes back to what I mentioned to you earlier on.
I was spilling my drink. I set up the poll. Is the poll set up? I actually can't see it. Oh, there it is.
Restrained foreign policy has come as a result.
All right, everyone answer the poll. Everyone answer the poll. Everyone answer the poll.
So that's the trend
also the
that we have
videos.
seen. I mean,
Fucking stop lagging. There we go.
A massive opening
okay, wait.
That led
Let me just video. I think the max FPS for you guys is what, 30 FPS, right? So I'll just cap it at 30 for myself as well.
Embedded in this,
wow, this feels.
Of things, thought that was a huge political.
So I'll just split my drinks.
Absolutely winning card for Trump.
Okay. What do we call the dog, by the way, guys? Oh, what the shit? A cooling system? What?
Instead of getting a bloody.
What is that? Huh?
Actually, proactively adjusted its foreign policy in the right direction.
What the shit is that? Cool than Skibbity. I do want to go through the Skibbity movies at some point as well as a chat, as a stream thing. I have a lot of ideas for content.
Stopping that, and as a result, if we want to be able to
so many ideas, so little time.
In the long term, we do need to have an approach.
You said cooling system made me type cool as cool.
And far more focused on American interests.
Call them Skibbity. Oh, call them Skibbity.
This money that we're spending, 750 bases around the world.
Yeah, I don't know what that means. You don't know what means?
Outside of their own territory.
Nice. You will answer the poll. Professor Biden, but I don't care. I prefer videos, but I don't care. I'm fine either way.
It's not comparable.
Thank you. Fucking. You tied the poll? Was that on purpose? Okay. Do you guys tie the poll on purpose or?
Towards more militarism.
I'm genuinely curious. I genuinely don't want you guys that to be a thing. I want people to answer the poll seriously. It is.
What does that say that with those priorities?
I always withhold my phones. The end tight. You assholes. You're such wankers. We can do another poll later on. Yes.
Unless we have really big mistakes.
We run it with those two.
This one, because at the end of the day, if I want to say
I don't think we need to. It's like 2 rows and two rows are like I don't care.
And getting out of this war.
And no one voted for like 2 of the things. So like only people voted for 3 things. One of the things being I don't care.
I think the most likely scenario is that it will be a non-agreement.
Either way, we're probably going to continue with the interview because that's what I would vote for.
Make an agreement, but nevertheless, the U.S. doesn't go back into the war. The Iranians continue to control the straits, but I don't get the sanctions released.
And then we'll probably put on a video.
Because at the end of the day, the two sides are too far away from each other to come to an agreement. But they nevertheless have a
Let's give the dog a
common interest in
name.
not going back into full-scale war. Now, it's not a great outcome. At the
I think
end
the
of
main
day,
information of the
it's
chat
going
wants
to be
you
very
just
stable. But
wants you to
most
steer the
other
ship. Yeah,
American presidents,
I've
when we
steered
have
the
now
ship.
seen it, once
Rest
faced with a
assured.
debacle like this, what do? They just
Don't
keep
worry, I am
They just keep on telling
I'm
the
a
American
benevolent
people
dictator.
tree is just
Rest
a
assured.
couple
Call
of
the dog
months
Skibidi.
away.
Okay, fine. We're calling it
20
Skibidi
years
for
later,
now.
he has ended up
For
spending
now.
$2 trillion changing the government of
Come along,
Afghanistan from the
Skibidi.
Taliban back to the Taliban.
Why is it not
So pulling out is costly.
calling
but
it
it's actually
whatever?
far less costly
Come
to
along,
pull it out
Skibidi.
than you waited
Also,
4 years.
real quick,
And
check out how fast we can go with the skip jumping.
Very long. Do you feel like this is a different scenario than the purposely long,
Like insanely fast,
convoluted,
which are true.
military
Ships are in good.
quagmires that we found ourselves in with Afghanistan, Iraq?
I'd be a
and
great
Vietnam
dictator
as
because occasionally
well.
I'm just
That didn't
because
actually
usually
put
I'm
a
just
dent
like
in,
okay, well, I should
America's
not expand on that.
force
Whatever.
protection
I don't care.
capabilities.
I'm gonna do it.
And if so, why? 'Cause
Sweat
I do
Lord.
believe that. I think that this
Okay,
is
would you
different
rather
because
just
there's
like
a
me
lot
like
more
moving
focus
at
on
this
what's
speed
going
or like
on,
this
and
speed?
This is the
No.
first time we've actually dealt with
Hush.
Our
common dogs always either Kiryu or Goro.
had the capacity to strike at
Kiryu,
profit centers,
Kiryu-chan.
in particular, both in the
Oh, that would be a
GCC
fun
and
game
also
to play
in
on stream as
Israel,
well.
and shut down the Strait of Hormuz and
I
create
am
global
a gamer
panic
at heart.
around the energy
I think
market.
I'd be. I really want.
So I think you're onto
There's a bunch of
something
things
there
I want to be in this
because you
space,
have
and one of those is
Gone
like,
Sean
you know,
and
just someone who plays video games.
the United States won the war.
Who, you know, have not awful
And then the United
politics,
States lost the peace.
maybe even
Same thing
good
is true in
politics.
Afghanistan. The Taliban were defeated, and then they came back because the
Admin,
United States
he is
stabilized
doing
the
it
country
sideways.
without help set up a new functioning government. Here we're talking about
Most of it said
the
isn't
military
jest.
not in the sense in the
I don't
direct,
believe you. I'm taking you seriously all the
battle,
time.
because the
Combustible
Iranians
Lemon, who
made
changed the name to add 6 and 7 into their name.
and squeezed the global
I
economy. That
assumed you
would
were
just put
serious all the
United
time.
States in a terrible situation, and other countries in even worse situations.
Can you call yourself a real
And as
gamer if you have good
result,
politics?
we are where we are.
That is
So in
something
sense,
I've
it
joked
is
about
very
a lot.
different. You know,
You're a
Saddam
real
Hussein
gamer?
did not
Alright,
manage to
say a
bloody
slur
United
right
States.
now.
Iraq and the instability that's followed did bloody United States. But that wasn't a military defeat. It was
Which is a
political
funny joke, but also like very sad to think about that.
So
You know, that that's a
guess,
fucking
what
funny
are,
joke because it's
what do you
too
foresee,
indicative of our
taking place
environment.
beyond this situation where
remains
both
research
parties don't
belong to
actually
an
align, but
organism
like
that tends to nest
the
near objects emitting specific
the
types of
battle
resonance.
lines are drawn regardless.
Spitters are called as
America
such due to
fails
their
to
ability to
achieve
create and
its
spit
military
plasma
objectives.
across
It
long
clearly
distances.
is
Spitter
incapable
remains can
of
now be made into
successfully
alien
attriting
protein.
Iran
Mm, alien protein.
capabilities given the asymmetric warfare that they've conducted.
Oh shit, the fuse is right, fuck.
Instability
Shit.
Here,
Sorry.
what do you perceive China's
What?
role to be here as well? Because they are a major partner to the
Okay, which
Gulf
thing? This
states,
one. Okay, there we
and
go.
They do get a lot of their energy from the Gulf states. They were capable of crafting
Completely
a
forgot about this.
successful agreement between Iran and
I can say the
Saudi
F star and the
Arabia
T
in past
star.
as well.
So Hassan, sorry, I do have to leave after this answer.
It should be the norm.
I
Guys,
have another
stop.
meeting at 4 o'clock, but
Stop.
I think that's a
thanks
very
so much for
important
coming on.
So the F star, you're a
No, of
proper
course, my
gamer.
pleasure. I wish I had more time.
I mean, I have said
China's role in all of
slurs
this
on
is
stream, but they're
very
Danish
interesting.
slurs, and they're slurs
There's a
which are my,
simplistic
you know,
view in which,
my
you know,
slurs.
whenever
So you know,
China- whenever the United States shoots itself in the foot, that this benefits China. To a certain extent, that's absolutely true.
the only
But
slur
China
I can
also
use
in
is a
need of
K slur.
stability, and it's particularly in need of stability in the Persian Gulf. So it is not happy to see.
Okay, I'm trying to remember what
instability
that-
has almost
what that
doubled the
is.
price of oil, creates all of these
If I
different
even know.
challenges, and it could get much worse if this war had continued. So those are
Also,
very
this is the
worrisome
factory.
signs for the Chinese
Was
war.
it you,
does
Lemon, who
appear.
asked
I
about
haven't
it?
gotten this
Read what I wrote
but towards
beforehand.
the end of
The
these
fact that I'm
talks,
possibly
the
pleased when I find a
Chinese
gaming
did
channel where
work
someone is
with
semi
the
woke.
Iranians to get
It should be the norm.
to
Yeah,
agree to it,
it's
even though
insane.
mostly on their terms, it was
People
still a
being
big
naughty
deal
should
because,
be
you
the
know,
norm, I meant.
the Iranians agreed to a ceasefire back in June.
That makes a lot more sense.
that Trump passed them for. And
I
there's
should
been
not
a
have.
lot of commentary about
I
it, a
just
lot of
assumed that you were like joking along with everyone else who were like, LMAO, yeah, slurs, yay.
to agree to that ceasefire. They should have continued the war. And that has now
But yeah,
also
no, I
reflected
agree.
in the debate
Like, it's
in
very
Iran
much
the
like,
last couple of 48 hours. And the Chinese appear to have weighed in. And
like I don't really
gotten
watch
to, agree.
much in terms of gaming anymore at all.
In the scenario that I see
I've just
most
moved away
likely
from
to
that.
not prefer
saying that because I don't want to say grown away from it, because I feel like that's kind of, to me, that implies that, you know, that it's something beneath you, which, you know, to me that's silly. But I like to say I moved away from it. Anyways, I moved away from like watching a lot of gaming. I still do it now and then though. And there's like one specific game reviewer guy, whatever, that is still like, I enjoy his videos. And I'll not say who it is, because he is very problematic, and he's problematic to the point like I'm genuinely not quite sure what his politics is. Like, I think he's just being edgy, and he might have okay politics, but I'm too unsure about it, so I'm just gonna be like a guilty pleasure type thing. I'll watch his videos now and then. Like, he's at the very least just problematic in his behavior. It's just like finding something you enjoy and then they hit you with an ick. Yeah, for sure, for real. This guy is, I will say, like, very funny, but I'd wish he was. He didn't. Like, some of the jokes he makes, I'd wish he didn't, because then I'd be able to share like his. Then we'd be able to react to his videos on stream, and that would be very fun. He always struck me like a burnt PM viewers. Fuck off. I'm not burnt Peter. I don't know his content, to be fair. Like, I don't. Burnt Peanuts, like, content to me seems to be like very boomer shit.
Love for the folks to follow me on Twitter at tparsi or at Substack at treatupparsi. And you can also go and check out the website of the Quincy Institute,
from their surroundings to sustain themselves. By tuning the
All
object
right,
scanner
thank you
to
so
the
much.
particular
Real honor to have you on the broadcast.
It is now able to locate them against the background environmental static.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen,
right.
That was, like I said, the party of the Quincy Institute. Phenomenal voice.
Shimmer's got a stash of gamer content that he has from his leftist comments.
It was really awesome that he was willing to do it.
Okay, we'll probably watch this interview properly at some point. I think what something I need to do is I need to select a few games which are good for when we are watching stuff, like games to play specifically when there's something we are intently watching. And I don't think this game is one of those. I think this is a game where like we need something that's like a little more backgroundy, like what I like. Most Hassan content for me like is backgroundy. Not saying that it's not good or anything, but it's something I like to consume in the background while focusing on something else. Bunny hopping is background. And like a lot of YouTube videos, like long form YouTube videos to me are like a background thing. So let us do that. There's a lot of Hassan. I want to go through a lot of Hassan's interviews and like some of his like more like focused content or whatever you want to call it. At some point, why is YouTube not loading the shit? Slur should be. Inshallah, one day she can say it by accent when she partially says it, maybe when saying a particular French bread. You guys are so unserious. Not Peanut Donkey, you always struck me. But I do watch a few gaming channels, although they're not overt with the politics. The way they talk about the UK government is good from a left's perspective. That's good. I'm glad to hear that. She's just going to say, yes, I got my stash of gamer content, maybe one time, but by now being his background, I think the only gaming content consumers are guys is one short eye who does speedrun old Sierra Alpha games. That's nice. I use B-Hub and CS while watching streams. That's real. A lot of people do that. A lot of gamers are literally just neurodivergent. Which, you know, makes sense, right? Like, it makes sense. Why is YouTube not loading? I'm actually a gamer, which is better because gay. Well, you're saying that gay people are better than straight people. That's so typical leftist something discrimination or whatever. I've heard that it is unwritten rule that whoever baits the streamer into saying a slur gets a gifted sub by the gamer, by the streamer. That's, I don't know how to even react to that. I don't know what to even bloody say to that. SMH. Okay, let me just like make the chat a little bit smaller. Make this video a little bit bigger. There you go. What's the movement? Is this good? I think this is good. That's good. That's decent. Good enough. There we go. All right. We could also just like pause with watching something for a little bit. Actually, no. We need something. We need to ADHD max. It's very important. Okay, I feel like putting this on. It's been a while.
È come riavere la Gioconda, un sogno. Liberté, égalité, Renault Coupé.
I love this shit so much.
This is the new Renault Twingo. It ushers in the next era of safe and
I never grew up. I love this brain rot. I love shit posts.
Hypersonic weapon interception capabilities and nuclear deterrence. Starting at €20 or something, the new Renault Twingo features a compact design that enables it to park anywhere one desires, making it the perfect choice for city drivers and those who want to show off their new Renault Twingo in their living room, thanks to the fact that it is small enough to fit through your front door. The front fascia has been updated to reflect a new standard of elegance and sophistication, representing the values of a rich cultural heritage. The new Renault Twingo looks like a raw sewage treatment facility. This is good, because when no one wants to park next to your ugly
This is
you can escape the parking lot with ease.
This is good.
Rolls-Royce Trent 977B84 axial flow high bypass turbofan engine.
I'm such an idiot.
Kilonewtons of takeoff thrust that we fit inside the front bonnet using a guy with a hammer. The new Renault Twingo can now reach blistering speeds of up to 45 kilometers per hour, thanks to its unparalleled power-to-weight ratio of 3 horsepower per 1,000 tons, which means you can impede traffic for just a fraction of the price of another car. In addition, the improved efficiency of the turbofan
I love Bosnian Ape Society. Their videos are so stupid.
11,400 gallons of fuel for every hour of operation, making it an economical and environmentally conscious option for transportation. The 55R
Me and my Renault Twingo be like,
missile system comes standard with every Renault Twingo, with a range of over 600 kilometers and a response time of
that's
less than 4
awesome.
seconds.
What a deal.
Firefighter M has the capability to simultaneously detect and intercept up to 10 hypersonic missiles and aircraft.
This is a
at speeds
Warship
of up to
vs. Wooden
7
Plane
kilometers per
one.
second,
It's amazing
allowing the Renault
too.
Twingo to repel any and all modern airborne threats with ease. And
Yeah, everyone brain that these days you can't free scroll because it's like 9% AI. Is it that much?
Launched by the Royal Navy while crossing the Channel Tunnel into England due to your status on the United
I mean, I know you're exaggerating, but I feel like it's not that bad, depending on where it is. It is a lot, I do agree.
Destruction for ultimate nuclear deterrence. Despite its compact design, the Renault Twingo comes with a standard variable yield thermonuclear gravity bomb in the trunk, with a blast yield of 1.2 megatons of TNT, meaning if you are threatened by your political enemies or someone cuts you off on the motorway, you can release 5 petajoules of explosive power to instantly vaporize.
I'm very amused by this. I love this. All right, let's put on a longer video. Let's. Not that this video isn't serious, good high quality information, but something a little bit different, a different type of YouTube video to enjoy in the background. Why did Bob the Builder build the Berlin Wall? That's brain rot for another time. Could the Bismarck 1v1 a wooden plane parentheses historically accurate? I think that's the one you were referring to, but not quite. That's not quite what we're looking for. Let's see. Do we get a recommendation or something? The new Freda video. Goated. How much longer am I on for? About 2, maybe 3 hours. Can we watch that in that time? Yes, we can. It's a one. Yeah, okay, we'll do that. All right. Linking the video here. Pinning that as well. Everyone, be sure to watch the video on the side, support Freda, and oops, I accidentally... It has a timestamp, my bad. We're starting from 0. I hate when YouTube does, like, timestamps, like 2 minutes into, like, fucking, like, a 2-hour video or whatever. A little bit annoying. Oh, wait, you free scroll on YouTube? Yeah, okay. I mean, I do TikTok, and I'd say, generally speaking, the content I get is not nearly... is, like, generally quite decent. Not always, but from what I can tell, definitely much better than like short form content on other platforms like Instagram Reels, definitely Facebook Reels, and YouTube Shorts. I got a free 1 liter tub of ice cream from Lidl. Nice. How? Why? Okay, right. Everyone, be sure to watch Fredda's video on the side. Also, shout out Fredda. Is that the correct Fredda I shouted out? I think I did. Okay, I'm assuming I've shouted out Fredda properly. Lidl Plus up thingy, but still 1 liter of free ice cream? Damn. Usually it's just like salt, which costs like less than €1.
Fascism enjoyed its zenith in the interwar period and in the early years of the Second World War. This was the fascist epoch. Even so, as you've no doubt seen in my past videos, fascism never fully went away. It has survived into the post-war era, and its many diverse fascist movements have adapted over time. Nowadays, we see a fascism adapted perfectly to the conditions of the 21st century. Scholar of fascism Roger Griffin calls this, quote, cyber-fascism, but that sounds like it was cooked up by a Polish game developer, so I prefer the term online fascism. The sort of fascism we see today is global, it's international. European fascists laid a strategic groundwork, which is then imported by American fascists, where the American media and cultural exports are utilized to transmit their ideas to a global audience.
The Facebook was in reference to the idea of using Facebook rules.
If you're Latino, Asian, or Black, you too get to be a white supremacist. It doesn't matter if you're not even American or European.
True.
If you live in Malacca City in Malaysia, you're still expected to care deeply about how many citizens of Portland, Oregon are illegal immigrants. This
Milestone
is online
reached.
fascism.
You have been given
Today,
access
and
to the
ever since the
anti-waste
planting of
stress
culture
testing
war
of
in the
materials on
2010s, I've seen
Exoplanet's
the term
bonus program,
fascist be
also known as Awesome. Your
Awesome!
workload allows Fixit to comprehend our amazing universe more clearly. In appreciation of this, we have generously set up an internal, closed economy with exclusive rewards and currency. Directing parts
This
of
is
varying quantity
a very
and
important part of the
complexity
game.
into the Awesome Resource Sink will grant Fixit coupons. These coupons can be redeemed in the Awesome Shop for highly desirable items such as new foundations, walls, factory attachments, cosmetics, parts, and more. Next time you have additional resources, just remember to go that extra kilometer. Go awesome.
Go awesome. Oh wow, they added dark mode, that's epic. Welcome Cyberpunk Team to say, do you know Cities by Diana? I do not know that. Is that a person? Is that a channel? And yeah, I'll just like post the video now and then when we research something, because like the dialogue, the relatively small amount of narrative stuff in this game is precious. Like I like it a lot. I find it to be amusing. Sulfur. I wonder if we can research going through this route, guys.
This unknown chemical element was in reality an unusual mixture of solid sulfide and sulfate materials from which sulfur can be extracted. Sulfur's primary use lies in fertilizers, which we have no use for. Instead, this element enables access to more volatile obstacle clearing and pioneer defending tools.
Hell yeah. Can you link them? Yes.
Networks of these fungi possess unusually resilient hyphae.
If you want me to look at them though, a better bet would be to put them in the, what do you call it, the suggestions or something channel thingy I have on Discord.
To mycelia on Earth.
Okay, right, that's it for dialogue.
Applied in all sorts of ways, mostly for things that aren't explicitly fascist. What I'm about to say is by no means uncontroversial. The definition of fascism is probably one of the most hotly debated definitions in history academia. In 1980, the American historian Stanley G. Payne released his book,
most of the time when I talk about fascism, most of the time when I name drop fascism, right? The way I, like, it's not like, it's a general thing I'm describing. The reason for why I'm saying fascism, even though it like technically doesn't have, like, it doesn't have one specific meaning or stuff like that, at least not in the way I use it, is because people in the West, they understand that fascism is bad. Saying that capitalism is bad is not, like, they don't get that. They don't get imperialism being, you know, like insanely bad. They don't get colonialism being insanely bad in the same way as fascism, because fascism is connected to Nazism, which is, you know, Nazism, they know specifically why it's bad, and fascism, they know it's bad because it's related to Nazism, right? That's like, and sure, there is like, I'm sure that some, like, that, you know, some people use it too much, whatever. The general point is, you know, if I call something fascist, I'm referring to it being generally very racist, very fucked up, in the sense of, you know, just, it is some type of system or the like, which seeks to, like, not help humanity in any way, shape, or form. In group, out group, yes. System building exclusion, exactly. Okay, we're gonna change this. Alright, let's continue the video.
Choose a sort of checklist approach grouped under 3 categories. First is the fascist negations, or what fascism stands against.
Oh,
Then
we can make them from
ideology and
mycelium,
goals,
nice.
And finally, style and organization. I find this definition more descriptive of historical fascist movements than a real attempt at getting to the core or essence of fascism, so it's not the one that I will be utilizing here.
1 minute long video. Okay, wait, we can watch that real quick. Copy current address, open that. Sorry, Freda, we have much more important things to deal with right now. Oh, oops, Why is it not copy link? There we go. That's annoying. Okay. Girly pops for imperialism.
We love projecting power globally. A nation at war is so brat. The global south needs a little glamour. SpongeBob, obviously Minnesota needs it too. We can go door to door giving makeovers. The American war machine needs your love and kindness. We will make
Is that an edging machine?
the American war machine needs your love
or sounding machine
and kindness.
Or both.
We will make the world respect us and look hot doing it. Are you ready to rule the world, baby girl? Together we will rewrite history and build a better world for heritage Americans. Let the oil flow freely. You gotta make your own kind of music. Sing your own.
Okay, enough. It's too long. Okay, high quality brain rot. This needs to be like 30 seconds or something, not 1 minute. Enough. I said enough. It's 1 minute. Yes, it's too long. Okay, for this format, I look, literally, I know I'm ADHD, but you know, I can watch long videos. We watch long videos. We do that all the time here, right? But for this format, they need to be shorter, right? It's too much of the same joke. Does that make sense? Like, it's too much. The same joke is dragged on for way. Like, same point is dragged on for way too long. Maybe I'm just being overly critical. Because it's like you can get away with them being like 2 or 3 whatever minutes long when it's like, you know, the fucking Renault Twingo, right? The Renault Twingo comes with a steering wheel and like a BX4 whatever, like gigantic missile system. It just needs to be, but this type of thing needs to be a little bit shorter. Anyways. Oh, oops. Why did I look like... Thank you for the high quality brain rot.
Than a real attempt at getting to the core or essence of fascism. It's not the one stands against. Then ideology and goals, and finally style and organization.
There you go. Right back.
I find this definition more descriptive of historical fascist movements than a
I recommend the other stuff.
Getting to the core.
We'll definitely be watching it at some point, I'm sure.
The one that I will be utilizing here.
So guys, this year, you see the Fix-It factory card? This is our goal. We need this very badly. This is the most important thing ever. There's also less important things like foundations and walls and architecture, like blah blah blah, boring shit. And then there's important things like the cup
I think it is possible to
and a
outline list of
customizer
features that are typical of what I
and
would
some
like to call
organization thingies.
or eternal fascism. These features cannot be
We can't see shit. The video takes up 70% of screen. Thank you. Also, when did you join, Pablo?
Other kinds of despotism or fanaticism.
Hello, Goat.
But it is
Thank
enough
you.
that one of them
Hello,
be
Goat. How
present
you
to allow
doing?
Fascism to coagulate around it.
Paolo, would you mind if I at some point show people the beautiful art that the two of us made? I need to get cancelled sooner rather than later so I can actually grow into prominence. And I feel like that the art we made is like... I'll blur our faces. Don't worry. You can just think about that. Making art together is so cool. Yes, it was... Like, the entire thing was... Like, this scenario... Like, what happened? Like, it was very random and it was very awesome. Like, it was great. I feel like I prize that memory due to its secrecy, TBH. That's fair. To me, I prize it because of, like, just how out of nowhere it was. Like, and... It's just, like, I think it's really nice to share that. But we can keep it a secret as well, don't worry. I'll just refer to it as the painting. I don't think anything bad come out of it, but I don't want to risk it regardless. That's very fair. I'll keep it down low. Well, you know, whatever. It was some stupid fun that people take in a very weird, wrong way. Very real. Right. You said, do you see Iran's statement regarding the violation of 3 points of the agreement? I did not see that. Do you see what they say? Did you also get paid with your best friend? Not yet. Yes, I show it to people offline all the time. It's awesome. What is the Iran thing?
Constitutes a fascist movement, and more so a list of observed factors around which a fascist movement has historically grown. The fact that, quote, one or more features can be eliminated and the regime can still be identified as fascist makes the system for identifying fascism less rigorous and useful. Roger Griffin says the word fascism can be likened to how Augustine of Hippo described the word time in 396.
And I was not fully listening to the last bit.
The fact that, quote, one or more features can be eliminated and the regime can still be identified as fascist makes the system for identifying fascism less rigorous and useful. Roger Griffin says the word fascism can be likened to...
Check Twitter of any Iranian official. I don't have the shitter, so none of that was as I have read. That's alright.
I know well what time is, so long as nobody asks me.
We'll probably check it out sometime tomorrow or later.
I no longer know.
Unless someone links it.
Historical fascist regimes like that of Nazi Germany or fascist Italy, you will see many commonalities and many differences. What complicates things further is that if you compare either of these fascist regimes with liberal democratic regimes, you may also see many commonalities. What you might be seeing is just common aspects in the way states operate in present-day society to find what makes the fascist regimes actually...
I mean, literally just like the entire concept of nation-state is, to me, like it's part of, like, to me the concept of a nation-state is, you know, supported by capitalism because it is something that leans towards fascism, and fascism is another way of which, like, it's another way of supporting capitalism because it ensures that there are like hierarchies of oppression beyond just like some people are insanely more rich than everyone else, and therefore like it further obfuscates these oppressive relations because, you know, there's more of them along with sex, like, and that's, you know, directly related to why racism, sexism, like, you know, patriarchy, so many other things, like, they are supported by and benefits capitalism. Not always, you know, it's not literally just all the time, oh yeah, the rich people are like setting these things up in such a way, but yeah, a lot of them are very aware of this. And, you know, it leaves this legacy behind of then these things just kind of like get built up by their own. Like they are self-reinforcing as well, to some extent.
Fascist, you have to go to the essence of fascism, what Roger Griffin calls the fascist minimum. Roger Griffin's approach considers it impossible to find a, quote, objective, purely empirical, uncontentious definition of fascism. He considers fascism something that cannot be understood as a real entity that can be described on the basis of, quote, self-evident traits. Griffin's definition skirts around the traditional Marxist definition of fascism, which defines it as a tool of capitalism, and the traditional liberal definition, which considers it, quote, irrational, nihilistic, and undefinable.
Logistics Mark II or jump pads.
And it can be defined. I use Roger Griffin's definition because it's a part
Maybe
of
building this thing here was not a good idea.
Griffin continues to refine, because it's simple and because it has seen reasonably broad adoption. Griffin's definition encompasses...
I'm sure it'll be fine. We'll figure it out.
That is generic fascism, as opposed to Italian capital F fascism.
We need to set up production of more things,
encompassing Croatian fascism,
like reinforced iron plates,
Italian fascism, German fascism, and all other forms. Roger Griffin identifies fascism
assembling crafting bench.
The
The colleagues on my previous show really love this game. That makes sense. It is a very neurodivergent game. Had like 5k hours on it. Okay, that's insane.
The fascist core, or the fascist minimum, is this. The fascists view themselves as the self-appointed vanguard of an imagined community. This imagined community, the Ultra Nation as it calls it, can be all kinds of things, such as Judeo-Christian civilization, the white race, or a mythicized nation from history. Because it's an imagined community, it's...
Ultra Nation sounds so silly, but at the same time, very much... Like, fascists love LARPing. Like, the same way how, like... it's a little bit similar to how, like, some leftists are very obnoxious LARPers who are, like... You know, they shit on everything other leftists do while not actually doing anything, while, you know, saying or like acting as if they are going to lead the revolution or some shit like that. All fascists are like that to some degree. Like, literally just look at like Pete Hegseth. Like, that's just like, he's just like, I'm the epic crusader. Like, that's how he thinks of himself. Incredibly just like cringe and childish. I really want to get into it because I just know that we have the same kind of neurospice, but I can't really give myself that addiction. Yeah, that's very responsible. Can't relate, as you can tell. Though I'm using my neurodivergent powers and funneling it into this Twitch stream. So I found a semi-productive outlet.
Can change to match the pragmatic needs of the movement,
Based.
which is
Thank
why
you.
Many leading figures in present-day fascism, while espousing outright Nazi beliefs, probably don't fit very well in that particular imagined community.
You think you're a white supremacist? I'm not a white supremacist. I'm actually a Marxist. I know. I saw that. Okay.
What you just saw was the neo-Nazi Nick Fuentes. I'm not going to focus on him that much here because he's a very overt, out-and-about Nazi. But if you want to hear more about him and other online fascist agitators, I've got the perfect thing for you. I've started the Reaction Podcast with an alcoholic
We're going to watch
and an American former campaign staffer turned streamer and political agitator. My co-hosts are you Gopnik and Mike from PA. And every week
we'll watch some of their episodes at some point.
Prominent online reactionary figure, sometimes with special guests. This isn't just a start recording and shoot the shit type of podcast. The podcast goal is to inform, and as such, we come prepared. Though inevitably it does go a little bit off the rails. Here's a brief clip. The memorial service was attended by virtually the entire US government cabinet, including President Donald Trump, as well as Elon Musk.
I must repeat, on 9/11, it
is crazy.
Peak cinema. That is peak cinema. What would be the only better date that this happens on? I mean,
maybe we'll watch it tomorrow or Friday.
Yeah, there's no way. What calendars are you using?
Aryan calendar.
Yeah,
the Aryan calendar.
I'm surprised somebody hasn't made that from where you're from.
I mean, I'm sure.
From where you're from.
Yeah, exactly.
We've got a professional trailer by Eamon Animations. We've got a professional logo by Schmergel, and we've got music by
we need to watch that.
And a very talented musician. We're trying to make sure this podcast doesn't suck, and there's actually a reason for you to listen to it. If you're looking for more content like what you see on this channel, check out the link in the top of the
I'm very glad. Like, I think it's very cool they started a podcast. I do think it's a little bit funny that Simi inadvertently like shitting on other podcasts. The way he's saying like, we want to ensure this podcast is actually good, guys. We need a car, guys.
Back to the Ultra Nation. The ultra-nation aspect is why we refer to fascists as ultra-nationalists, as opposed to regular nationalists who historically have fought for the establishment of a sovereign nation, not the creation of a nation-like community on top of or within their existing nation. Quoting Griffin, "The latent
what's the
organic
best way of
ultra-nation
setting
to be
this up?
achieved through the fascist revolution is perceived as exposed to an urgent or sustained existential threat. The threat is most often framed as a looming crisis of some sort, attributed to the historical circumstances the fascist movement finds itself in.
Logistics.
It typically expresses itself in a sense of crisis, decadence, or degeneration. For example, military, industrial, demographic, moral, or cultural decline, the production of degenerate or meaningless art, anonymous townscapes and architecture, national humiliation, whether economic or military, loss of national essence and virility, loss of identity, or communal cohesion. It can also relate to infiltration or takeover by their perceived ideological enemies, characterized as, quote, miscegenation with racial, ideological, dysgenic, or moral enemies, and contamination by decadent ideologies, like pacifism, communism, cosmopolitanism, globalization, multiculturalism, political
communism is so decadent.
The imagined enemy can be racialized, targeting Jewish people, black people, and so on, or can be focused on gender identity, sexual identity, or feminism as a, quote, unhealthy social practice. The factors chosen by the fascist movement as its preferred crisis come together to threaten their vision of the ultranation. The two things are most often inextricably linked. If the ultranation is deeply concerned with the so-called white race, then the crisis often concerns itself with immigration or miscegenation, also called race mixing, which it might euphemistically call, quote, demographic replacement. The crisis and the ultranation are both imagined. They're not so-called objective aspects of material reality.
Okay, right. I've decided the main thing we need is
analyzed and interpreted through an ideological
raw, like ore, right? We need to gather and aggregate ore in a place, and we also need to gather and aggregate, what do you call it?
Key aspects of post-war fascism, being fascism between 1945 and I think around 1990s,
like melted ore in a place.
Fascism in the Cold War.
So let's do that.
For it to make sense, you need both the beginning, the middle, and what hopefully will be the end of the story of
I don't want to
fascism.
disrupt this
Post-war
system.
fascism
We'll just
had
let
to
this
adapt
system
to the
continue
so-called
for a little bit.
post-fascist world, where the evils
I set
of
it
the
up somewhere
20th century
else.
are deeply embedded in the political mythology of Europe. Eugenics and codified racism didn't sell as well in Europe as it used to. To adapt, fascism began masking
That's crazy.
cloaking
Can't believe this.
euphemistic language. For example, the Italian fascist party MSI, quote, adapted to the new hegemony of Western democracy by developing a refined doublespeak, a coded discourse in which policies and manifesto promises were crafted to allow the initiated still to discern echoes of interwar dreams of epic grandeur, while the uninitiated could choose to take the exoteric rhetoric at their democratic face value.
Oh, Trump passed for quiet roaders.
Became the AN, which later merged with Silvio Berlusconi's center-right party, PDL. 3 years after that merge, more radical right-wing members of this now merged party split off to form the Brothers of Italy, which is the current largest party in Italian politics. If you look at the so-called national conservative parties of Europe, many can trace their origins back to overt fascist parties which have moderated aspects of the platform and rhetoric. In the 1960s, the French ethno-nationalist philosopher Alain de Benoit made a conscious decision to move away from the, quote, discourse of racial superiority and revolutionary violence towards a cultural rebirth, or rather a national and European renaissance as the solution to the prevailing climate of terminal decadence. A new, quote, differentialist racism insists on the so-called human right to belong to a, quote, distinctive, historically rooted culture, mythically conceived as ideally homogeneous and pure. One which is uncontaminated by the mass migration and globalization encouraged by the liberal democratic commitment to pluralism. Democracy is portrayed as a new totalitarianism which promotes, quote, cultural genocide. Online neo-Nazi Richard Spencer uses this sort of sophisticated doublespeak when he argues for, quote, peaceful ethnic cleansing, to create a series of ethno-states in the world as a part of a mission.
Lovely.
A, quote, sort of white Zionism. The French human rights adaptations have had a tremendous effect.
Incredible.
Not just in Europe, but globally. Another adaptation of the 1960s was the transformation of Hitler from the...
What does this mean by white Zionism? That's... I mean, what, he's gonna make Israel too? Like, that's literally just Israel already.
perceived savior of Germany to be the perceived savior of the, quote, whole Aryan race. Roger Griffin says this global phenomenon that he calls a radical departure from the, quote, narrow nationalism of Nazism in the 1930s deserves its own concept, which he calls universal Nazism. This phenomenon is partly why you will see online fascists who earnestly believe that Hitler is the savior of Brazil, Indonesia, or the United States. Fascists seek to seize total political power, but the means by which they plan to do so are adapted to their historical circumstance. In the interwar years, both in Germany and Italy, there were attempts to seize power through force. Both failed. Instead, the pathway for fascists to power was through the regular democratic process, backed up by a violent paramilitary. Fascist coups largely have not worked. In terms of electoral success, per 2018, Roger Griffin highlighted 3 countries in which fascism has managed to sustain itself in electoral politics, those being Greece, Hungary, and Slovakia. Other than that, fascism has largely failed at the ballot box in the post-war period. In my mind, this proves that the old strategy of the fascists still works, but that conditions for it are not quite ripe everywhere in the world. Instead of its own fascist parties, the, quote, fascist electorate, so to say, is instead flocking to more, quote-unquote, respectable populist right-wing parties, like Reform UK or the modern Republican Party in the United States.
Or your average Social Democrat Party in Europe.
More on that later. Another post-war mutation is what's called groupuscularity, or the formation of several fascist groupuscules.
The dog is just randomly finding very high quality stuff.
Internalize one adjacent
Incredible, thank you, Scooty.
Worldview, carrying their self-appointed mission in a spirit of leaderless resistance, is symptomatic of the biggest change of all to affect fascism in the post-fascist age: groupuscularization. Groupuscule is a French word originally used for marginal radical activist splinter groups of the French left in the 1960s. Roger Griffin uses the term to denote how the far right became a vast collection of tiny, numerically negligible activist groups. Though each group is numerically negligible, that's not necessarily grounds to dismiss them. Quote, yet they acquire enhanced influence and significance through the ease with which they can be associated, even if only through linkages in cyberspace, with other grouplets, which complement their verbal onslaught against the present face of the West, and attempt to lay the theoretical foundations of a new type of society. This brings us to the post-war mutation that is perhaps most important for understanding online fascism. The historic circumstances that saw conservative and other centrist forces welcome the Nazis into the democratic process do not exist anymore. The specific kind of racism, overt antisemitism, and fear of a left-wing revolution that permeated the 20th century are no longer key questions of the day. Groundwork must be done to create the conditions for fascists to be normalized and once again accepted into so-called normal, respectable society.
I'm very glad the game has a global quit layer.
To achieve their goals, they eventually have to stop hiding and to convince people that their ideas actually are normal and sensible. They intend to accomplish this by achieving total hegemony through metapolitics. Like most effective strategies that fascists employ, they took this from the left.
Wait, did I miss something on the video? Did he show something? Oh. Did he just have this? Okay, I did not notice that he just fucking had Germland up. Yeah, fucking. I have so many things to say that if I were to say them, I might break TOS, so I'm not gonna say them, but yeah. Germland.
Most effective strategies that fascists employ, they took this from the left. Hegemony theory, or a theory of cultural hegemony, is attributed to the Italian communist Antonio Gramsci, who wrote on the topic during his imprisonment by the fascist government of Italy.
And something I know that Fred is going to get into in this video, because I remember him having spoken about this in his streams, and I think, yeah, at least in his streams before, is like about how, like, Fred basically, I guess, theorizes that fascists are effectively like seeing how Antonio Gramsci like has, you know, analyzed fascism and how it grows, and then taking that and be like, yeah, actually, yeah, we should do this. This is what we should follow. So accidentally, Antonio Gramsci has like made the playbook for the fucking Nazis. So yeah, that's great. Yeah.
Quote. Just as Marx famously quipped that the goal of his historical materialism was to turn Hegelian idealism on its head, so the right has inverted Gramsci. The gist is this: modern states and their ruling class maintain domination over society not just through coercive force, but also by promoting a, quote, certain way of life. Imagine what you consider so-called common sense or what's normal. You didn't come to those ideas out of nowhere. What you consider common sense was learned. Quote, common sense, popular attitudes, and beliefs frequently accepted as eternal truths by ordinary people denoted, for Gramsci, a largely uncritical and fragmentary mode of consciousness. Its danger was that it tended to invite resignation and passivity rather than collective action. An obvious example of so-called common sense beliefs, which should be illustrative to a modern audience, is the, quote, divine right of kings. Ask your average Joe living in Western Europe sometime between the 1600s and the 1800s, and they might tell you that it's just common sense. Ask someone outside of this very specific context the same question, and they're going to say that it seems insane. Now, consider some central tenets of so-called common sense in our society, especially those that pertain to the ruling class, and you might start to see some similarities. Replace God as the one bestowing the right to rule with the free market, allocating or bestowing a $700 billion net worth to Elon Musk. This ideology of common sense.
No, but that's fair though. That's okay. He worked for it.
Function as another defense of the
he worked hard or something.
And therefore, the ruling class in a society. Quote, revolutionary transformation for any class cannot be focused exclusively on the seizure of coercive or bureaucratic power, but must engage the state's wider system of defenses. A revolutionary project, he suggested, must first build consent across civil society before taking formal power. Quoting Roger Griffin, even before the internet age and the technical possibility of the free movement of fascist ideas, neo-fascism had undergone a different, more intellectually highbrow sort of virtualization, with the emergence of the Nouvelle Droite, or what came to be known once it spread from France as the European New Right. Following Gramsci's theory of cultural hegemony as the precondition of political hegemony, the New Right promulgates a right-wing Gramscism. The goal is to push the bounds of common sense to encompass their positions.
Now, Nigel's come our way. Nigel forever would never talk about mass deportations. He's now talking about that. I think we're actually helping drive some of those people to the part of the right that you actually need to be.
In the United States, this move towards right-wing Gramscism was articulated in the 1990s by the paleoconservative Sam Francis. We have actually talked about Sam Francis before on this channel, when Elon Musk's favorite historian, What About Hist, brought it up in his video on why there will be a, quote, incel revolution. Here's a clip.
I would highly recommend the book Leviathan and Its Enemies by Samuel Francis.
Of course.
It's one of the best political books I've ever read, where Francis was a conservative who, in this book, was doing a Marxist class analysis of modern society.
Holy shit! I need to read this. Quote, like the European New Right, Francis stressed the importance of adopting a cultural struggle against the prevailing liberal order. Another way of wording cultural struggle is, of course, culture war. Now quoting Sam Francis himself, if the cultural right in the United States is to take back its culture from those who have usurped it, it will find a study of Gramsci's ideas rewarding. Andrew Breitbart of Breitbart News, which played an important role in the rise of the alt-right and Donald Trump, also believed that, quote, politics is downstream from culture, and attacked the left's, quote, cultural Marxism. His protege is Steve Bannon, former White House chief strategist to President Donald Trump in his first term, and the man you saw in the clip just earlier. We'll talk a little bit more about Steve Bannon later. To get their hegemony, the right has been engaged in a conscious strategy, and it's not an electoral strategy. Cultural hegemony is not achieved at the ballot box. Quote, instead, they should devote their energies to a sustained campaign of metapolitics. This means operating outside the arena of party political life in order to concentrate on using intellectual and artistic production to overcome the forces of materialism, and the degenerative ethnic and cultural miscegenation and general spiritual chaos of modernity. Put simply, they are engaged in a long struggle to shift the goalposts. There are multitudes of strategies employed by online fascists to do so. Roger Griffin highlights one particular strategy which I'm sure all of my regular viewers are familiar with, by creating a counter-narrative to established evidence-based history. Griffin focuses on the most extreme and outright form of fascist whitewashing, that being Holocaust or Shoah negationism. He mentions that in 1977, the so-called Institute for Historical Review was established in the United States as part of this tactic to push these revisionist ideas.
A temporary assembler.
Of this sort of behavior, you've got the Daily Wire produced quote
to set up some resources.
They told you colonialism was
lovely,
and that Joseph McCarthy was a bad guy. And guess what? They lied.
The The term woke is illustrative of a right-wing metapolitical tactic.
I can't believe that, like, a friend of mine was like, a friend of mine became like a Matt Walsh fan because Matt Walsh is, you know, because he's a dipshit, he has a lot of fucking shitty opinions. One of them is, you know, he's very anti-trans. And my friend was like, I like that, despite this friend of mine, you know, we are both South Asian. I was like, I was just like, I'm not sure if I ever told him, like, I should have told him. I don't know, probably because I was in shock from, like, this fucking revelation when I spoke with him, after I haven't spoken with him for a while, that he likes Matt Walsh, who is literally a fucking self-described Christo-fascist or whatever. Like, he's a Nazi, like, he hates fucking brown people. Like, he does not like you, little bro. Why the fuck are you out, like, going, oh, I'm a fan of this guy? He may hate, you know, he will probably call me slurs, but, you know, at least he also hates trans people. Like, it's fucking, and this is, like, kind of, why it especially annoys me when brown people, they play into right-wing talking points and shit, because, bro, we are next in the shopping block. I mean, well, we're probably gonna be, we are around the same, we're going to be on the shopping block as well. Either before or after. I don't know why the fuck you're playing along with these dipshits on this. It's incredibly fucking annoying.
Dimension.
And stupid.
Just in this decade. Originally, the word possessed multiple meanings. One meaning meant to just be aware. Another meant, quote, being on the lookout for a systemic injustice. It has in recent years taken on a euphemistic form that functions as a stand-in for anything perceived to be associated with the left, or as a stand-in for the enemy. Games, movies, TV shows, etc. are deemed woke because of the existence of a person of color, a gay person, a woman, and so on. There is a now fairly dominant culture on the right, in which certain imagery, for example, of a black person, carries with it assumptions or implications about the motivations, the politics, and broader goals of the people behind it. Just because it's funny, I want to mention that there is a massive Steam Games curator list that exists to communicate whether or not video games are woke. For example, Jagged Alliance 1 Gold Edition, a game from 1994, is deemed woke because it, quote, contains overtly pro-DEI and subtly pro-LGBTQ+ messaging. Features multiple female frontline combatants with improbable biographies. Dr. Margaret Trammell is a lesbian.
Improbable.
Dawn is woke because it, quote, prominently features a black male Asian female couple. Farming Simulator 22 is considered slightly woke because it has, quote, no distinction between male/female during character creation. The video game Destroy All Humans is considered slightly woke because it, quote, tasks the player with destroying humans. It serves as a convenient segue into the core topic of this video. Exposure to the World Wide Web has caused new mutations and adaptations in the various species of the genus fascism, creating a fascism for the 21st century, which I call online fascism. Fascists relegated to niche online subculture spaces produce their metapolitical fascist art in video game communities, in underground music scenes, on kids, on...
You can't just fucking... Oh, there's a quiz for that if you want a fun... Wait, there's a quiz for it? Like, do you mean, like the guesser, is this game woke or not? That one? Actually, yeah, that would be a fun doll. Speaking of, we need to actually do the dolls at some point. The leader of the AfD youth in Hesse is Bengali. You can't just drop that on me out of nowhere. Wait, that's insane. You need to... Okay. Please, like, put that somewhere so we can react to it, because I need to cuss the shit out of this cunt. Like, fucking, I will not... Okay. I've said this before, and I'll keep saying it. I have... Like, the way, you know, I hate white supremacists, right? I hate... non-white people who play into this even fucking more, because it's like you're such a little, like, you're a quisling, like, you're just disgusting. You are like, you're pathetic. You're like a worm. You're like the worst in every aspect. Like, you hate yourself. Like, you're just such a pathetic human being. Like, you're an insult. You're an insult to God. You're an insult to the creation of humans. Like, you're an insult to every living being on Earth. If you're like... like... not to say that white supremacists aren't dickheads or shitheads or wankers and all that, but at the very least they have some sort of like, they have in some way there's like they have some consistent logic in like why they are like that. Like in a way they believe it's gonna benefit them because they're stupid, right? But you disgusting, filthy like insult to the notion of intelligence. Think that you're part of the club. Fuck off and die. And I'll probably not say something much nicer whenever we're going to read more about this Bengali AfD leader. Fucking disgusting, man.
Twitch and on YouTube. Virtually all the channels I've criticized over the years are engaged in...
His name is Naifur Rahman. Might be... I think that might be a Hindu surname, I'm not quite sure. He's 27 and engineer apparently. Disgusting. Of course he's in STEM. Fucking of course he's in STEM. What is it with like some like some diaspora are just like incredibly idiotic in the way they follow politics, like in their political direction, and it kills me a lot. It saddens me and enrages me greatly. But yeah, we'll have a look at it another time. That's great. Woke Ona. Right. We'll have a look at that as well another time. And I need to actually set up a doll thingy as a fellow STEM might disavow. I think that the way things are going, like I imagine this community, it is like definitely, I think currently is, or at the very least, like in the future, probably will have a lot of STEM people who did not get fully indoctrinated into like you know, who broke out of like, why are we having ethics classes? This is boring.
The same metapolitical strategy. They are either willing, enthusiastic foot soldiers of reaction, or they've been sucked into the maelstrom of online fascism through the right's recruitment strategies. Quote, "The cumulative effect of the international groupuscular right is to form a permanent, latent oppositional subculture through which thousands may pass on their path to radicalization. Moreover, in an internet-savvy age, each groupuscule can ensure it is only the click of a mouse away from nudging someone already predisposed to extreme nationalism into further fanaticism, and, in extreme cases, into crossing the Rubicon from compensatory fantasy to violent activism. They're not thought leaders like they might imagine or they would like to be, but they're also not taking direct orders. They are part of a subculture that is being pushed and pulled in various ways by many different actors and groups. They are without any sort of centralized leadership, but in the aggregate, they are working in the same general
And a very good
direction.
ethics property unity was in ComSci, that's good. That's very important.
Features of the internet which first attracted US military strategists to its potential for making it impossible to shut down or wipe out the information it contains simply by knocking out any one part of it, since there is no mission control to destroy. The structure of online fascist movements creates what Griffin et al. Call a sort of ecumenicalism, meaning essentially that different informal fascist groups work together, promoting unity with a shared mythos, like the so-called universal Nazism I mentioned earlier. This is why accounts pushing online fascism in America often are not American at all, and why white supremacy is so inclusive to black and brown people nowadays. Although fascism in the interwar period existed in multiple locations in the world at once, it can't be said to have been internationalist in the way it is nowadays, which itself is an adaptation to fascism's marginalization in the 21st century.
In a way, you could say that while fascists have like basically opened up to being diverse for practical reasons, because they know that in the end they're going to, like, it does not matter even if they are, you know, not being pure to the ideology or whatever the fuck. Like, they will still, like, eventually they're going to degenerate back to that anyways, right? Meanwhile, leftists have kind of gone the opposite direction and just been like again, specifically talking about the Western leftists, and not everyone, just a lot of them, have gone, I'm not going to work with these guys because they're Trotskyists, or they're MLs, aka tankies, or they're anarchists, anarchides, or whatever the fuck. Which is just stupid as shit, unless specifically you're talking about the RCI, in which case valid. The RCI are a cancer.
You can't build a mass movement domestically, you instead build multitudes of groupuscules through informal networks online. Stormfront, which grew out of a Ku Klux Klan bulletin board in the United States, provides
Well, we have those in Scandinavia. Yay.
links on its website to affiliated Stormfronts in numerous other countries. According to Griffin, the Daily Stormer
That might be
demonstrates
wise.
the
Brought them up.
growing sophistication of cyberfascism through its use of the image board website 4chan to disseminate internet memes among a new generation for whom social media has extensively replaced three-dimensional material reality. Griffin is absolutely correct, but I think this analysis has quickly become dated by how fast things are moving now on the internet. The groupuscules form the base layer in this decentralized metapolitical machine, and their goal is to influence the public to achieve cultural hegemony. But there's another layer that goes unmentioned here. Griffin characterizes the groupuscules as leaderless, non-hierarchical, and polycentric, and he is absolutely correct on this. But let me quote him, and I would like you to pay special attention to the final sentence of this quote. This enables groupuscules, when considered in terms of their aggregate impact on politics and society, to be seen as forming a non-hierarchical, leaderless, and centraless, or rather polycentric movement, with fluid boundaries and constantly changing components. This groupuscular right has the characteristics of a political and ideological subculture, rather than a conventional political party movement, and is perfectly adapted to the task of perpetuating revolutionary extremism in an age of relative political stability. The groupuscular online right belongs to a political and ideological subculture, not a party movement. This, I think, we can all agree on. But there's an element of interwar fascism that I believe has persisted into the present, which is missing from the picture, if we want to understand how fascism operates in our society. The alliance between capital and the historic Nazi Party is well documented. One telling example of this is the meeting in Hermann Goering.
He has some really good videos. He has some videos. He has some very good videos about this, specifically talking about Coca-Cola in the World War II period, and we'll probably look at those at some point. Basically, just like Freda, I think is like he's such a great communicator. Like he's a very good educator. His videos are really well put together and all that stuff. So I mean, 1000% we're gonna go through those videos at some point. And a lot of them we're going to rewatch. I've rewatched a lot of his videos a lot of times. Because he like says some, like he has really good points, and he points out some things that at least I think a lot of people have not thought about in certain ways, while also doing so in a very, like I would say, in a very like not too heavy like manner. Like it's very, I would say his language, generally speaking, is very accessible. But maybe that's just me. Also, I posted a video partially because I am going to think out loud. And what I'm thinking out loud about is that we need a place to aggregate all our iron ore, or at least a lot of it, and I mean a lot of it. And then from there, we're going to smelt it. Like we're going to aggregate a lot of iron ore. We're going to aggregate some of it, and then we're going to like smelt it. And then, put it into like these different production processes so we can like produce a bunch of resources which we need as we grow a factory.
Private villa on Monday the 20th of February 1933. Hitler had summoned 25 important businessmen to explain his plans to crush the German left. After which Göring explained that, quote, since German business had a major stake in the struggle against the left, it should make an appropriate financial contribution. According to Item 2's, the financial donations of February and March 1933, quote, provided a large cash injection at a moment when the party was severely short of funds and faced, as Göring had predicted, the last competitive election in its history. The willingness of elites to work with fascists in the interest of crushing the left is in my mind adequately documented through the interwar years. This aspect of fascism's original rise is missing from the narrative.
How tall should the factory be, guys? Should it be like 12 meters tall, or like, sorry, how tall should each floor be? I'm thinking 12 meters. Yeah, let's probably just do that.
About fascism in the 21st century. Griffin says that, quote, a group that sounds so powerful and ambitious on its website will usually turn out to be maintained by a handful of enthusiasts with a defective reality principle, trapped in self-delusion and bereft of practical influence.
Well, let's do 16 for the first level.
Comments or likes the site can boast in the age of cyber-fascism. When he wrote this in 2018, Elon Musk had not yet bought Twitter, and several far-right influencers had not yet posted their way into the US government. The fascist groupuscules produce ideas or messaging which they disseminate to the public. The actual real-world effect they have is largely
Group of
related
skills.
to individual acts of fascist terrorism, and doesn't lead to or create a larger movement. However, sometimes political and economic elites latch onto one of these ideas, messages, or narratives because it is useful to them, and so they use their position of power to normalize and boost their ideas. The imperceptible messaging of a marginalized political ideology becomes impossible to avoid when it's brought into the light by elites. To give you a concrete example, in the previously mentioned video on What Evolved Hist's Incel Revolution, I brought up this guy, who I refer to as, quote, some jackass with a camera. I made that video in May 2024. That man is Nick Shirley, who in December 2025 spread the unfounded Somalia daycare conspiracy theory.
Oh yeah, do you guys remember this? I
made that video in May
I remember sending this to Freda.
That man is Nick Shirley, who in...
I wonder if that is why, if that helped him in any way reference this.
I made that video in May.
I want to believe it did. I want to believe it. He seemed like he wasn't aware of it when I linked it to him. So I wanted to believe.
That man is Nick Shirley, who in December 2025 spread the unfounded Somalia daycare conspiracy theory, which was then amplified by the richest man in the world, who is on track to be the world's first trillionaire, Elon Musk.
Yay.
Shirley himself credits Elon Musk with helping his narrative go viral.
The man who bought Twitter October of 2022 with 231 million followers, as busy as he is running all these multi-billion-dollar companies, who is officially net worth is around 750 billion, decided to tweet 48 times on the topic of fraud in Minnesota and Somalians, something you started heavily that went viral on December 26th.
Instead of leading to individual acts of fascist terrorism, this led to Operation Metro Search, whereby federal immigration officers swarmed Minneapolis, where they carried out warrantless searches and arrests, illegal detainments, attacked bystanders, violated international law by attempting to breach the Ecuadorian consulate, and shot and killed 2 innocent people. The stated intent...
I think they killed more people than that. Also, one thing I'll say specifically about this one, instead of leading to individual acts of fascist terrorism, I don't think like there were individual acts of, you know, people killing each other and stuff for this. However, there were a lot of victims of like a lot of harassment immediately after like Nick Shitley's racist dipshit fraudulent campaign against the Somali population of Minnesota. Like it's a thing I'll add that because there were individual acts of maybe not straight up like terrorism in like the violent or like very violent sense, but there was harassment. There was a lot of harassment afterwards. Actually, I think there was also some instances of like violence where they broke windows and shit of a lot of these, again, daycares. Like, absolutely insane.
This led to Operation Metro Search, whereby federal immigration officers swarmed Minneapolis.
And I'm pretty sure more than 2 people died, but maybe it was like in other parts of the country.
Attacked bystanders, violated international law by attempting to breach the...
Okay, I'm not sure about how to set up the iron storage.
2 innocent people. The stated intent of all this was a crackdown on illegal immigration. However, quoting Minnesota Public Radio, every few days since Operation Metro Search began, DHS has released lists of people it says have been arrested. NPR News examined one of these lists shared by DHS officials on Monday, January 12th, and found that most of the people on the list had been immediately transferred to ICE custody at the end of time served in Minnesota prisons. All of those transfers happened before ICE began its surge of operations in Minnesota on December 1st, 2025, with some even happening years before. One of the people ICE claims it arrested during its surge in Minnesota was actually arrested 23 years ago. That being said, none of the activities of ICE are necessarily fascist in and of themselves. These sorts of things happen in liberal democracies and have historically been supported internationally by liberal democracies. By seizing on the racist conspiracy theory...
What I'd say to this is that capitalism slash like the way it's built up in our nation states and whatnot, in Western nation states, is inherently fascistic. Maybe not all aspects of society, but it's set up in such a way that it will, it will revive fascism. It will recreate it, slash, a lot of the things we do, like the way we live, are supported by, slash surrounded by fascistic institutions and systems. Again, why I call the Western countries like the system we live under in the world, the capitalist system, I call it the global apartheid.
Trump administration has legitimized it to the benefit of the fascist goal of cultural hegemony. In addition to being platformed by Elon Musk in December, Nick Shirley also attended an event where he served as a sort of special reporter on Antifa months before his national prominence due to the Somali daycare hoax.
Antifa here in the United States, and there's nothing organic about what they are doing here in the United States. It's a big organization and corporation that they're running. And people may wonder, like, what's the threat to us as Americans if we go? Well, you'll be labeled as a fascist, you'll be labeled as a Nazi, and they'll wish death upon you, because they wish death upon me. I also was chased out by a member of Antifa who said he would smoke me, and next thing he knew, a DHS sniper had lasers on his chest. And the truth about what's happening here in America with these groups is very dangerous, and I thank you, Mr. President, and your administration as well for acknowledging that.
Thank you very much. It's too bad you have to go through it.
I know, it's a little crazy, right, Mr. President?
Well, you're going to get to the bottom of it, so it's a very important thing you're doing. Thank you very much.
Antifa, as a sort of domestic terrorist boogeyman, has its origins in a petition by an anonymous pro-Trump poster called Microchip, quoting from an interview with him on Politico from 2017. Microchip is an online provocateur who is routinely kicked off Twitter and claims to direct legions of automated bot accounts. Microchip himself said the petition itself was a waste of time, and that the point of it wasn't to actually get Antifa designated as a terrorist organization, but to shift the narrative from right-wing violence and to, quote, prop up Antifa as a punching bag. He even explicitly said, you can call it an extreme form of whataboutism. Quote, although he sees this as a successful test...
It's so awesome that these things are laid bare. Like, they're very, like, easily accessible bits of information, which are just out there. But Western media will, will not actually cover this as what it is. Like, literal, fucking, what do you call it? Like, false flags and, like, disinformation campaigns and all that kind of shit. By the right wing. By various aspects of the right wing. Supported by other aspects of the right wing. And even, the supposed left wing, aka, the right wing light.
Questioned whether this strategy can work absent controversial public gatherings like Charlottesville and last week's protest in Boston and other cities. Microchip then says, quote, our biggest problem is being able to replicate what we did over the last 5 days. I wish we could turn this into a well-oiled machine. In essence, his wish is to have a Charlottesville Unite the Right type Nazi gathering on a regular basis, and then to use Antifa as a means to normalize the Nazi rallies. So, right-wingers say, well, at least the Nazis are fighting the left-wing terrorists. I'm not exaggerating here. Let me quote Microchip directly. Quote, so the narrative changed from I hate myself because we have neo-Nazis on our side to I really hate Antifa. Let's get along and tackle these terrorists. I severely doubt Nick Shirley is an ardent believer in fascist ideas. In fact, I don't think Nick Shirley has that many ideas at all. But he's most definitely a foot soldier for fascist cultural hegemony.
He is very stupid.
At this point, I want to discuss...
I do think that Nick Shirley, he would enjoy fascist ideas if he had the comprehension skills for that. And this is not just me saying that every right-winger is an idiot. Though, like, inherently, if you're a right-winger, I would say you're ignorant. Everyone is ignorant to some extent. Specifically, right-wing ideologies, they carry some specific types of ignorance, especially when it comes to, like, empathy and emotional, that kind of thing. Okay, this dog is just keep getting me, like, awesome things. Very good. Thank you, Skibbity. Very good dog.
Two content creators and tendencies of theirs that I believe are reasonably identifiably fascist, as well as some very interesting peculiarities of theirs that are reflected in the literature.
Okay, cool. Who do you guys think he's going to mention? I think one of them is going to be Asmongold, and the other one I think is going to be... Actually, I don't know what the other one is going to be. Wait, let me just go back.
As well as some very interesting theirs that I believe are reasonably identifiably fascist.
Okay, he said he doesn't want to talk about whatever, like what's it called, like the gay Mexican Nazi guy. I forgot his name. Doesn't matter. So it's probably gonna be as mode. And the other one, what's the other one gonna be? I don't know what the other one's gonna be, but I'm guessing at least one of them is gonna be Asmongold. Gold. No, it's not gonna be Nick Fuentes, but yes, that is who I was referring to. As the game mix cannot see. Who was it? Rather, who else? I actually can't think of that many fascist, like, content creators. Like, who are not just, you know, straight up pundits. At which point, you know, I would just say there are more pundits than there are content creators. Who would it be? Whomst would it be? Have you guys got any guesses? Also, I'm gonna turn up the sound a little bit. There you go, a little bit better. Okay, I can't think of who it is. Let's continue.
As well as some very interesting peculiarities of this that are reflected in the literature. One of them you know well if you're a regular viewer. That is What of Altist. What of Altist has long been peddling crisis narratives of national decay and imminent collapse, and has, through his various so-called history videos, constructed various visions of an American ultra-nation. Ever since I first covered him, I've been deeply fascinated by him, since he is seemingly deeply interested in history and loves to read, but seems to abhor the application of up-to-date sources on the topics he covers. In fact, a lot of the time, he seems to reject empiricism wholesale, favoring wacky narratives and ideas that border on the fantastical. I won't put them all in the footnotes, but I'll cite my past videos for that claim. So let's talk a little bit about What of Altist, J-pop, and fascist sacred time.
One of the new authors I've been quite enamored with lately is the 19th century French thinker Gustave Le Bon. And he likes to say that history is made by dreams and fantasies, not by fact or logic. The more I thought about it, the more I realized that he was right.
This is from a video titled Modernities to Mythologies. Like most of his videos, it's a hodgepodge of his personal intellectual tradition that he's developed over the years. Though he never cites sources correctly, he does have a bibliography nowadays which still references the aforementioned American fascist Sam Francis. The video also, of course, carries a crisis narrative. I'll highlight some sections of Griffin's text where he describes elements of the fascist crisis narrative, as What of Altist describes them himself.
But some of the easy examples are equality, the blank slate, the idea that humans don't need culture or religion, which are irrelevant. Everyone is the same, only economic factors drive the world, that there is no ideal or divine, that people are motivated predominantly by sex before anything else, and that history has no lessons to teach us. When you add all of these up, and keep in mind academia never questions them, you find that our entire reality is a lie. These ideas, when added together, will mean social collapse and civilizational suicide, which we are witnessing now.
Some of this requires a little bit of explaining. When he's talking about a society where everyone is the same without anything ideal or divine, or a society that's anti-religion, he's not specifically talking about, for example, Christianity. He's talking about a spiritual need for transcendence. I showed small relevant bits of text on screen, but it's not nearly enough to draw the connection between this and fascism, so you need to see the next part.
In the last year, my favorite musician moved from Buddhist Mongol metal band Nine Treasures to the anonymous Gen Z Japanese singer Ado. I like how she makes music about hating the managerial regime, Gen Z getting fucked over, the depersonalization of modernity and mysticism. One of the themes she keeps talking about is something she calls dream time, or a special sort of dimension where people imagine things. Dream time, which I think is one of the best uses of fiction in society, is a way to think up new futures to create new worlds. What's happened since is that we've cut off all access to dream time or the halls of time.
When he's talking about the
most normal fascists,
he's making an overt reference to Sam Francis's text. This section struck me though because of the similarity between the verbiage of his dream time, or his halls of time, that humanity must return to, and the fascist, quote, sacred time, as Griffin puts it, while citing Durkheim in chapter 1 of A Fascist Century. This chapter is titled The Fascist Quest to Regenerate Time. It's actually very striking to what extent what about his thesis in this section of the video lines up perfectly with the fascist phenomenon Griffin is describing. Almost as if what about his had read Griffin's essay and decided, maybe the fascists are onto something. I find this highly unlikely, and I think it's more reasonable, though still absurd, that what about his is reconstructing these ideas from first principles. It's possible he's read Julius Evola, and an over fact that he's read and in the video cites two authors that Roger Griffin also cites as important to these ideas. In a sense, what about his is discussing a retreat into the interior, into a subjective time, a reorienting of the material world and the inner self, to make reality the subject of the individual, as a form of revolt against the modern world. Quoting from the 1928 book Fascist Civilization, "When we affirm the divinity of our beautiful Italian nation, we mean by that we are announcing a religious idea in the true sense of the word, capable of creating a whole new development in culture, practical and theoretical, via which we can arrive at the new conceptions of God, cosmic reality, and human destiny, and a new way of ordering out interior life and exterior social life." What about his anti-modernity feeling and his desire for...
Ideal travel experience not guaranteed. Individual results may vary. Pioneers are responsible for all workplace accidents resulting from jump pad usage.
Hell yeah. And as you can see, we can now make the jump pad, which is one of my favorites, favorite structures for, and you can tell why that is. That'll be fun. We're gonna play around with that.
The magic dimension is something that permeated a lot of intellectual work in the interwar period. Quote, "Similarly, one of the effects which Max Weber attributed to the progressive rationalization of all aspects of modern existence was disenchantment, the erosion by secularization of the religious magic dimension of reality that
also needs to do my Duolingo.
Modern communities. Though he recognized that it might re-emerge capriciously and spasmodically in the form of collective charismatic energies to temporarily release human beings from their iron cages of reason." On the same page, Griffin brings up Joseph Campbell and Mircea Eliade. Don't know if I'm pronounced that correctly. Both authors that what about his also references for his ideas of dreamtime. I briefly showed a quote from Emilio Gentile. I want to emphasize the following section. Quote, "Suppressing the instinct for life enclosed within the brief round of pleasure, in order to restore within duty a higher life free from the limits of time and space." Much of what Evoltist's output is him trying to make sense of modernity, and for much of it he tends to reach back to occultism, mysticism, and arcane interpretations of history. For example, in his 1 hour and 30-minute long video titled "The Next Ideology Isn't What You Think," all lowercase with a period at the end, he is constantly harping on about Hermeticism. One of his sources for this Hermeticism is the Hermetic tradition by Julius Evola. I'm no mysticist or occultist or anything of the sort, but I do of course know that Julius Evola is one of the only interwar thinkers of fascism to survive into the post-war era. Quote, "His impact is largely attributable to the way his occultist theory of reality and arcane philosophy of history satisfy the need experienced by post-war fascists for a comprehensive vision of the world, one catering to the subjective sense of access to sacred time." Roger Griffin draws an explicit parallel between this phenomenon and the fascist right's fascination with Evola to the fascist right's fascination with fantasy. Quote, "The same need also explains the extraordinary way a number of fantasy writers, notably John Tolkien, have become part of the staple diet for neo-fascists. We talked earlier about how the post-war right has adopted a metapolitical strategy. Instead of seeking an immediate overthrow of present society, they seek to make it ready for the day they can do so.
Get away from my Tolkien.
Explicit instruction from Julius Evola. It's what he calls riding the tiger. It's described by Dr. Tobias Hoff, expert on the history of fascism, as a quote, wait-and-see approach. In the article I just cited, absurdly titled Fascist Hobbits, he argues convincingly that there is a parallel between Evola's ideas and the idea of a group of overlooked, unlikely heroes arriving just in time to defeat the darkness.
We should move this slightly.
Of course. Quote, "One of the organizers of Italy's first right-wing festival, Campo Hobbit, in 1977, stated, 'By resorting to the characters created by Tolkien's fantasy and his fairy tales, we wanted to show that we did not want to accept the state of the world. Looking to the future, let us evoke from Tolkien's fairy tales those images that enrich our imagination.
Really wants to do
we are
shit.
Inhabitants of the mythical Middle-earth, also struggling with dragons, orcs, and other creatures.'"
Why are so many fascists such weird nerds?
Of course of the video here, but
get away from my Lord of the Rings, you bastards.
Possibly friends with Elon Musk. They interact regularly, and Elon Musk has on numerous occasions referenced What About His podcast as a good history show. It's safe to say that some of what Voltist is peddling is leaking into
Western civilization is so cooked.
ketamine-addled brain. Here's what Voltist saying that the left want multiculturalism because they want the, quote, end of their countries. To which Elon Musk adds, quote, Europe extinctionists. This is quite overt fascist messaging, framing multiculturalism as an existential threat to the European ultra nation. We've talked about this at length at this point. Referring to Europe as an organism that will go extinct is no coincidence. In the fascist worldview, the ultranation is imagined as an organic entity that can be, quote, sick, decadent, humiliated, or desecrated.
Get all the iron in one
Healthy,
place.
strong, reborn, glorious,
And
sacred.
just tunnel into iron somewhere.
Both utilize Tolkien as an analogy for the modern world. Here's an example. The quoted tweet which Elon Musk is agreeing to is replying to a statement by the leader of Restore Britain, Rupert Lowe, and his independent, quote, rape gang inquiry. This is not an officially sanctioned inquiry by any means, and it's separate from the official government inquiry into grooming gangs, which is set to be completed within 3 years. The government inquiry has the legal power to call witnesses and requires organizations to produce documents and records. The so-called rape gang inquiry is a crowd-funded project by Rupert Lowe, with no official authority and no oversight. Restore Britain is a far-right party founded by a man who was kicked out of Reform UK, and who recently transformed Restore Britain into a rival political party. The so-called inquiry seems to me like a PR stunt. Returning to fantasy and fascism, Tolkien isn't the only sort of fantasy you see the far-right leaning on. For example, with the release of HBO's adaptation of the novella The Hedge Knight, titled A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms, the online right seems to have mobilized a meta-political thrust to claim it as fascist fiction.
Which is very funny considering, you know, that the first guy that says dunk he gets the hot on for in the show is someone who is not white. I'm very curious about how they deal with that. Like maybe actually I probably don't want to know how they deal with that, but I am curious about it. I'm gonna assume a lot of sexist and racist rhetoric around that. I know, shocker.
For example, here's Jack Posobiec, an American white supremacist fascist, claiming it as, quote, white culture. Jack Posobiec is reportedly the man behind the wildly popular and Elon Musk-boosted Twitter account End Wokeness, which is dedicated to fascist metapolitics. Online fascists adopt fiction as core ideological texts due to its accessibility, particularly fiction designed to be consumed by a mass audience. Quote, but while Evola's philosophy was complex and difficult to decipher, Tolkien's saga of Middle-earth with its eternal fight between good and evil, its bygone era of a golden age full of spirituality, and its heroic, self-sacrificing fight for a seemingly lost cause, was quite straightforward. Online fascists gravitate towards elements of anime like Fear and the Journey's End, partly because it's about a 1,000-year-old elf who's 4'11 and looks like a child, but also partly because of its portrayal of demons as creatures that infiltrate society by exploiting empathy.
I will say specifically like Freyren, like it is a pretty cool anime. It's a nice to watch anime. It is very weird the way it describes demons, like as an inherently like evil race which has specifically developed into looking like us, like looking like humans, to then exploit our empathy, because demons inherently do not have empathy. Like they've only developed in a lot of these ways to look like us to better exploit human empathy and trick humans and that kind of thing. And the show confirms this. To me, that is very, very weird, and I do want to look into what political beliefs the author has, and like whether it's literally just, yeah, this is just Nazi propaganda or something or not, because it is very, very, very weird.
41 years ago, in 1985, Roger Griffin wrote an article in the journal Literature and History, where he said, quote, central to the cult of figures such as Tolkien and Evola is the nostalgia for a total worldview, a holistic understanding of existence, warm and alive, immune to the icy skepticism and relativism that waft from the official institutions of culture and learning. This nostalgia is found by some in anime, some in gaming, some in videos of what it was like to attend high school in 2003. The call to return is endemic in online fascism, not because the idealized past is necessarily the objective, since fantasy, anime, and gaming aren't pasts you could reasonably return to. It's a return to a different sort of understanding of the world. one can be forgiven for considering it infantile. What about this definitely represents a part of this so-called highbrow or philosophical online new right. Very different from the average fascist obsessed with fantasy. Elon Musk more so fits that bill of a fascist consumer, and I would argue so does this guy, who responded to Musk's Tolkien post. On mainstream streaming platforms like YouTube and Twitch, the most viewed English-language right-wing streamer that regularly offers political commentary of the sort is Asmongold. The Vice President of the United States and the world's richest man both pay attention to him. Asmongold was a gaming streamer primarily focused on World of Warcraft. While having right-wing politics before, his content wasn't primarily about that. React streaming to an audience that can be described as somewhat to very right-wing, that is feeding him clips and content to react to, has turned right-wing agitation into a major part of his content output. What about this represents a sort of quote-unquote intellectual fascist tradition with continuity from the interwar years. But Asmongold feels more like a phenomenon completely born out of the online age. Asmongold is unabashedly uneducated.
If you open a metagame to do research or read articles outside of Twitter, how can you shamelessly tell others to read more? I don't need to understand whatever article you want me to read. All I need to understand is human psychology and incentives. And incentives and human psychology are the
He's so
deciding
proudly
factors
fucking
of how people
idiotic.
will
He's such a
behave.
proud idiot.
I don't need to read your little.
Why do
your
people
little
follow this
special
guy?
book or your Wikipedia article or anything else
Why are
besides
people so
that.
stupid?
None of that stuff matters. What matters fundamentally is how do people act, how do people think, and how do people respond to incentives. If you can understand that, then nothing else matters. It's pretty simple.
Here, he professes an intuitive, natural, and simple understanding of how the world works. It's pure rationalization from moment to moment, without a need for any sort of concrete evidence to point to, which is then passed off as an objective understanding of how things just are. It demonstrates an incredible amount of confidence in your own intellectual ability. He's also unabashedly unwashed, only cleaning his house after he got banned from Twitch for incitement to genocide. Out of a concern for my own audience, I will not show the pictures of what his house looked like before. He's the sort of person who wouldn't find a way to be heard in the interwar years. But since the barrier to entry to having your voice heard is so low now, he has an audience. Or, so I initially thought. But despite his appearance of just some guy talking to a camera in his childhood room, he is also a millionaire business owner. His class position incentivizes a certain degree of right-wing, capital-friendly politics. I have no idea how to get an accurate read on his net worth. Looking it up, I get ranges everywhere from $5 million to $20 million. According to Don't Quit Your Day Job, the threshold for being firmly in the 1% of Americans is around $13 to $14 million. While he has had to step away from active participation in two companies, OTK and Mythic Talent, because of his incitement to genocide and his outspoken desire to normalize slurs, he hasn't made any public comment on his ownership stake in those companies, which presumably he still maintains. Asmongold is a capital owner, so it should come as no surprise that his politics flow along those lines. It's what economically benefits him. Asmongold admits, or at least claims, that he doesn't read or do any meaningful amount of research. This means it is highly likely that virtually everything he knows, which he claims to be intuitive knowledge, is something that was shown to him. His understanding of what is shown to him and how he should react to this is partly informed by the reactions of his community. Because of this, I want to focus particularly on one thing he said on Twitter. Here, Asmongold quotes a figure on so-called Somali average IQ, which is easily traced back to Richard Lynn's IQ and the Wealth of Nations.
Nice, lovely.
His premise is that differences in per capita GDP are correlated with differences in average IQ. If you're at all familiar with how IQ tests work and what factors mostly play into whether a subset of the population or a geographical area scores a higher or lower on average, then this argument might on the onset sound sensible. An increase in economic development is correlated with increased test results in various attempts at measuring intelligence. One study published in 2018 in Norway attributed this to social factors. I want to emphasize, though, that I said attempts at measuring intelligence, because there is no general agreement on how to define intelligence. As such, there is also no general agreement on how to measure intelligence. Richard Lynn is a, quote, leading proponent of
It's insane to me that a guy who probably doesn't understand most, if of anything, like intellectual, like people will still listen to him and be like, yeah, he's doing a good argument here, like, and think, you know, like, not that, you know, you can't be stupid and have good ideas, but this guy is just very, very, like, impressively stupid and proud of it. And you just go like, yeah, this guy, he's a good leader of he has good ideas. I'm a Nazi, by the way, and I love white civilization, and like somehow, like, I want a revival while also like, yeah, intellectualism is it doesn't matter. To me, it's just a little bit ironic. Like, it makes sense considering, you know, how nonsensical these movements are. But, you know, it's still ironic.
Genetically determined racial hierarchy, according to evolutionary biologist and geneticist Joseph Graves Jr. The European Human Behavior and Evolution Association, an interdisciplinary society for the use of evolutionary perspectives to understand human cognition, behavior, and society, has rejected Lin's data on methodological concerns. Quote, "There has been extensive documentation of the very poor quality of his dataset. In many cases, national IQ is estimated entirely from samples of children, and in other cases, samples were not even resident in the country in question."
I feel like if he were more intellectual, it wouldn't work that well. I agree. That is true. A lot of these people are just very proudly, like, very stupid / like, they don't really care. Even though, you know, it's like not consistent with their supposed values, but, you know, it doesn't matter to them.
Furthermore, a large number of countries are not represented at all and are ascribed scores based on neighboring countries. In fact, they note that for many countries, multiple samples existed but were not included in the study's dataset, and that in some of these cases, quote, "samples with the lowest scores appear to have been selected. That is to say, the dataset was compiled in a manner which resulted in artificially low scores for certain countries, particularly those with majority black population." And to conclude, quote, "Any conclusion drawn from these data are both untenable and likely to give rise to racist conclusions, even where that is not the intention of the authors. That is to say, the data is so bad you can end up producing racist conclusions because the data was gathered in such a way and manipulated in such a way as to push people to those conclusions. So why does Asmongold bring up this particular figure? It's likely he's been told about it by someone, or he's been linked to it by members of his chat. These members of his chat are possibly or maybe even likely familiar with the overtly racist nature of Lin's work. These chatters may be members of fascist groupuscules themselves. A project at the University of Amsterdam conducted a case study on Dave Rubin's Rubin Report, seeking to understand how audience feedback influenced the politics of the content creator. Some of their findings are fascinating, though not surprising. Quote, "Dave Rubin's ideological development is closely linked to the business partnerships and financing structures of the Rubin Report. In terms of creators such as Asmongold, What or myself, audience engagement is what drives a lot of our income, especially for people like me who rely on things like Patreon for stability. This all creates a feedback loop where we create for the people who watch us, or the people who support us the most, our most hardcore audience, which for some can mean that you become influenced to tailor your politics and content to your viewer base. The study also found that whenever his audience more frequently brought up topics such as gay marriage, it led to an increase in mentions of gay marriage in Dave Rubin's video titles and in the transcripts of the videos themselves, meaning Rubin started talking about it more. This phenomenon is known as audience capture, and it can lead to creators being incentivized to engage in all sorts of dangerous or unhealthy habits. I often speculate the degree to which Asmongold or other right-wing content creators find themselves a victim of audience capture. The study indicates that political economy can play a direct and indirect role in a creator's political transformations, but also that an audience with a certain political leaning finding your content and enjoying it can have a direct effect. With live streamers such as Asmongold, he is reacting to clips, stories, and topics being sent his way by his audience. While he's constantly influencing his audience, he's also constantly being influenced by his audience. That isn't to say that he doesn't believe any of those things. He very well might. But at least some part of the reason why he's saying these things and broadcasting these things is that his community and him are engaged in a feedback loop. Add on to that the political economy aspect that the study highlighted, and also Asmongold's class position as a millionaire business owner, and you end up with a lot of incentives for certain political outcomes. It would be to the extreme benefit of a fascist groupuscule to influence Asmongold, and to use him as a means of broadcasting their messaging. And it may seem perfectly logical to Asmongold that these enemies of the left are his allies, and that their message should be heard. I'd originally intended to talk a little bit more about Asmongold, but as I was writing and recording the video, he kept saying new horrible stuff. It's easier for me to read a handful of books for each video, but it's very hard to sift through 8-hour-long daily live streams to find what I'm looking for. So on episode 3 of the Reaction Podcast, I'll be speaking to someone who knows a little more than me about Asmongold, another man who streams daily for 8 hours, a man by the name of Hassan Piker. So go subscribe to the Reaction Podcast wherever you listen to your podcasts. There's also a link in the top of the description.
Double ad inside his fucking video. SMH brother. I mean, fair. I get it. Valid.
which leads perfectly into another man who got his start in WoW. What does World of Warcraft, Goldman Sachs, Gamergate, Seinfeld, Donald Trump, right-wing Gramscism, and Jeffrey
Did you say
Epstein
Goldman
have in common?
Sachs?
The answer
I
is,
guess
of
W. Dr.
course,
Jihad.
the man who got his start in WoW. What does World of Warcraft, Goldman Sachs...
Did you say Goldman Sachs? I wonder if that is on purpose. He edits his videos quite well, from what I can tell, so he probably either said it on purpose or like just left it in there.
Gamergate, Seinfeld, Donald Trump, right-wing Gramscism, and Jeffrey Epstein have in common? The answer is, of course, Stephen Kevin Bannon. That's Bannon on the left there, with another guy on the right. In 2005, Steve Bannon secured a $60 million investment from Goldman Sachs to create a company called Internet Gaming Entertainment.
Is he just actually calling it Goldman Sachs? Like, now I'm genuinely uncertain whether he's saying it on purpose or not.
Workers to farm gold in World of Warcraft. During this time, Steve Bannon had his eyes opened to the world of hard capital G gamers. Quote, "These guys, these ruthless white males, had monster power. It was pre-Reddit. It's the same guys on Thoughtbot who were later on Reddit, and other online message boards where the alt-right
I need to do my Duolingo.
Bannon said. In 2012, Steve Bannon took over Breitbart News and recruited Milo Yiannopoulos to handle technology coverage. Yiannopoulos began to signal boost the growing Gamergate movement on Breitbart, leveraging Breitbart so that he could become, quote, "one of the most well-known faces of the alt-right movement," quoting Bannon. I realized Milo could connect with these kids right away. At this point, I should note that Milo Yiannopoulos was forced to leave Breitbart in 2017.
You know what I mean, Fredder sounds quite Norwegian. Not like very aggressively Norwegian, but like Norwegian. I don't like a Norwegian would be able to say Goldman Sachs. I'm pretty sure. So I don't think it's like, I think like, I don't know. I don't know why. I think he's doing it on purpose, but I'm not sure, which is funny.
Quote, following comments that appeared to endorse pedophilia. Bannon also said the following about gamers and the kids. Quote, "You can activate that army. They come in through Gamergate or whatever and then get turned onto politics and Trump." Knowing what we've established about where Bannon fits into the larger New Right and their strategies, it's hard not to consider Bannon's and the alt-right's involvement in Gamergate as a deliberate fascist metapolitical strategy to mobilize gamers. Our expert Roger Griffin unambiguously identifies the US alt-right as a neo-fascist movement. Gamergate became a sort of festival for economically alienated and disaffected young men. It promised them one thing that fascism also promised disaffected Germans after the 1929 Wall Street crash: a sense of collective redemption and communal transcendence. Harassment campaigns took on a similar community-building character as the
It's probably because he says it how it was spoken in German where the name originates. Would you say Goldman Sachs in German? Goldman Sachs? No, I think you'd say something like Sachs. Like Saxe-Lauenburg or something like that. At least I'm assuming that's how it would sound in Germanish. I'm not quite sure. So I don't think, but I don't think like that's the reason.
Just Hobbit camp we talked about earlier. Gamers were framed equally as unlikely heroes, able to stand up to the degeneration of their culture by what they back then called social justice warriors, but what we today call woke DEI or whatever stand-in for the enemy you want to use. Through this sort of spectacle, a gamer subculture constructed themselves a gamer ultranation. Every facet of Griffin's theory of fascism can be applied to this gamer subculture, as well as other subcultures. Nostalgia for the games you used to play is completely normal, but a mythicized idea of what gaming used to be and a vision of rebirth of the community by purging unseemly elements that threaten this imagined community, this often being marginalized and vulnerable people, in order to return to something that actually never really was, that sounds a lot like the cornerstones of fascism.
No, my game today. It's fine.
Cultural phenomenon
I appreciate the help a lot.
Apolitical contexts by young people, often without a handle on politics. It makes perfect sense that the groupuscular fascist online right would seek to utilize it. By getting people on board with some of the underlying assumptions of generic fascism in a generic manner, you can prepare a lot of people for whichever specific strain of fascism they might one day get exposed to. It's perfectly exploiting the decentralized nature of the online groupuscular right. You don't build a disciplined fascist movement, you build a framework, and then you let people build their own fascism from personal grievances. Using the theoretical and historical framework from earlier in the video, we can establish a number of things. There's nothing natural about the fascist culture war you see over media properties like video games, tabletop miniatures, and so on. It's a deliberate metapolitical strategy. It doesn't have any central leadership like online fascism in general, but it was still set in motion by fascist theorists, the intellectual fascists of the 1970s and the intellectual fascists of today. Many are still peddling old ideas of eugenics and Aryanism as a sort of universal Nazism, but others are innovating and creating new species of fascism. If you're European, you've no doubt seen elements of the more fringe, more radical right adopt very American culture war-centric positions.
Yup, all the time. Also, this is like, it's so annoying to me that fascists are able to like very few fascists, like this fucking corpse, like literal, like Steve Bannon looks like a literal ghoul. And like, and the far right, like the right wing in general, including capitalists, are very fucking stupid still. Like you grow up thinking, oh no, like thinking that it's possible for like a worldwide like network to be smart and like do all these things like fairly intelligently with it, like, and getting away with it and stuff, because no one's ever going to discover them. No, they're just stupid. They are just very stupid and arrogant, and they get discovered all the time, but it's just set up in such a way that there's so many fail-safes. And even if, you know, something, you know, does come out, like with Trump and like, you know, all the Epstein files, like nothing is actually happening to deal with it. Like, it's incredibly incompetent. Yet, despite that, they're still beating the left on, like, you know, gathering people to these objectively like stupid / like unpopular ideas. Which to me is very much like an indication, or you know, a good like example of like how the issues that we have in the left, in organizers and stuff like that.
Stay efficient. Don't disappoint. Fix it.
No. Alright, we need to do a space elevator soon. Alright.
Things that make zero sense in your particular cultural context. America's position as a global hegemon, the role of English as a lingua franca, and America's vast cultural output certainly play a role here. But that only explains the reach of American culture war issues, not why fascists consciously adopt them. Just like how Roger Griffin explained that fascists have constructed universal Nazism, there's also now a sort of universal MAGA. One of the burning questions among liberal pundits for years has been whether or not Donald Trump is a fascist. Some say yes, some say no. Some say the discourse itself is a distraction.
Matter.
In my mind, it's a bit of all three. Since the beginning of his first term a decade ago now, I have held that Donald Trump is not himself a fascist, but a fascist enabler. One whose actions enable fascism to metastasize in the United States and worldwide. Donald Trump seeks many things fascists also seek, like a mythic regeneration of American society, though his vision is far more constrained and less revolutionary than a fascist's would be. I think me and Roger Griffin are of equal minds on the subject, despite our stark ideological differences, and our different ways of explaining it. In Griffin's view, the global so-called populist extreme right doesn't envision an end to democracy as such, as a fascist would. Instead, they envision a liberal backslide into illiberal democracy. Here's a clip of Roger Griffin at Cambridge Union.
What picture emerges when we ask whether Trump is a 21st century fascist? Certainly the fascists who attended the 2017
just realized it might be because it's local Norwegian dialect. Maybe. He's from a very far north part of Norway.
Televised presidential debate with Biden in 2020 when he told the Proud Boys to stand back and stand by. Can't do American. I mean, what a stupid thing to say in a debate. Stand back and stand by? I mean, what are we doing? Certainly the crowd gathered outside Capitol Hill on the 6th of January 2021 contained some who projected fascist fantasies of inaugurating a brave new world onto the slogan, "Stop the Steal." So if Trump is not a fascist, not a revolutionary nationalist, or in my jargon, not a pan-genetic ultranationalist, and we had another nice one from upstairs, what was it, autocratic, anti-constitutional populist, yeah? If he's not one of those, what is he? I mean, if you look at the AFD, I mean, I could give you a whole list. If you look at Modi, etc., they are not trying to carry out the type of constitutional revolution that was carried out by fascist states. Trump, in that sense, is not a fascist. He doesn't, in a sense, need to be. And what
nice.
People like Trump are trying to do is to
not the video,
America, but
this. We learned
elements of the American tradition of democracy.
We learned recently on LB stream that Freda lives close to hell. What? Did LB finally watch a fucking Freda video? Did she actually do that? Or because I know that Freda, he lives in, what was it? I think he said it's Tromsø, which is not a secret. He's public about that. And I think the reason for why he's public about that, despite it not being a very big city, is because it's insanely remote. And yeah, it makes it. I don't remember it was close to. I didn't know it was that close to hell. But you know, it's like very close to like the Arctic Circle, or if not already in it. So you know, not that surprising.
Which was originally in the 18th century accommodated slaves and genocide of the Native Americans. I mean, democracy historically is not a nice thing for lots of people. He's now been given 4 years to impose his radical plans for the deliberalization of American politics and the remodeling of the international order.
No, I will play the Jugas, and Freda said he passed by there every day. Oh, he was like in the chat?
US interests. Plans which are sufficiently megalomaniacal, phantasmagorical and inhumane that they include seeing to it that 2 million Palestinians are forced from their homeland, now their houses no longer exist thanks to American bombs, and that Gaza is redeveloped into an Israeli
not just American bombs, but yes.
After the forced deportation and ethnic cleansing of its indigenous population. So I finish with this. In If This Is a Man, Primo Levi, a survivor of Auschwitz, asked readers to recognize that each tortured, emaciated prisoner of the extermination camp.
Oh, I didn't know he showed up in LB's chat. Nice.
Flame of a human life. This is a leap of the empathetic imagination, far beyond the stunted mental capacity of radical right-wing populists such as Trump, Modi, Orban, Wilders, Weidel, or Netanyahu, or their more moderate counterparts such as Le Pen, Meloni, or Farage. In an interview he gave shortly before his death in 1987, when populism was in its infancy, Levy warned that a new fascism might arise, walking on tiptoe and calling itself by another name.
The goals of the elites in a movement such as the one that has coalesced around Donald Trump can be perfectly achieved under the current system. American capital can dominate poor countries, and if they resist this economic domination, their governments get deposed and replaced with willing collaborators. White supremacy is alive and well in the United States, and police are regularly empowered to brutalize marginalized people. Immigrants are still a permanently exploited underclass to be deported the moment they are no longer economically useful. Forced labor in facilities that can be variably described as prisons or camps is legal in the United States, per the 13th Amendment of the US Constitution, which allows slavery.
Yep, literal slave labor, 1 million black people, those specifically black men, I think it's something like that. 1%, like 1% of the black, like male population are in fucking slave labor camps. Because probably for a lot of them are serving a lot longer than their white counterparts. And a lot of them also serving for things they haven't actually done. Much like how the US, like, within not so long ago, like a few months ago, I think, this year or last year, literally fucking executed a black man, despite the original people who sentenced him to death were like, no, he actually shouldn't die, we don't think it's actually him. But, you know, they still killed him. Because, America is insanely racist, and that's why I get very angry at people when they say, oh, Iran is like America is still better than Iran. Fuck you. Go fuck yourself. You're a piece of shit. You're an idiot. Like, you're an ignoramus to claim this, because you don't know shit about Iran, which, sure, it is very oppressive, and it has done a lot of fuck shit, but we cannot compare that to the country which is fucking over Iran. And also, we know that the US literally has slavery, and you don't know that Iran has a higher level of, like, a higher literacy rate, and, like, you know, I don't know if they're free university, but a lot more people in university, and, you know, access to a lot more, so I can have a much better access to education for everyone than the US, the leader of the West. this is not a defense of Iran as much as a condemnation of Western countries and their leader slash supposed ally. You had the so-called third-party ownership in professional football, which was practically slavery. Oh yeah, the buying and selling of players to me is weird. But to be fair, like a lot of players are, like professional players are paid really well. Like they are, you know. It is quite different, I would say. Then again, I'm not super well versed in like the economics of football, and I still don't understand quite how there's that much money in it. Like I understand very much that it's insanely popular and I wish more leftists were into football, but you know, I can't really say much myself with a lot of these things because I'm not that into football. I just respect it a lot. I think it's a very good, easily accessible sport.
As he quotes, punishment for crime whereof the party shall have been duly convicted. Crackdowns on freedom of speech and expression aren't new and have been rampant since the Cold War. Dissent, which in the past was framed as communism, can now be framed as Antifa terrorism, and thereby be criminalized as such. But a not insignificant portion of MAGA movements are fascists, and these fascists, alongside fascists in other countries, have constructed a universal MAGA, which does away with what I quoted Griffin as calling narrow nationalism earlier. Universal MAGA is all over online fascism. Universal MAGA is successful because, on virtually every issue except for foreign policy, it is compatible with domestic fascist grievances. The only time you're likely to see any significant rift is when the United States' interests begin to clash with those of the country in question. Otherwise, fascists all over the world who adhere to Universal MAGA are likely to be servile to American interests. Despite what I mentioned earlier about countries importing American culture war issues, the myth-making in Universal MAGA isn't entirely one-sided. The American side of the movement also imports and adapts more sophisticated European fascist theory. For example, the White House's National Security Strategy, published on...
It isn't thinking about third-party ownership was paid in investment firms straight up owning football and design the horizon who they would play for. Okay, no, that's insane. What the fuck?
On December 4th, 2025, quote, echoes the logic, also imports and adapts more sophisticated European fascist theory. For example, the White House's National Security Strategy, published on December 4th, 2025, quote, echoes the logic of French writer Renaud Camus's Great Replacement theory. The document also describes Europe as, quote, the central theater of a crisis that is at once political, demographic, and civilizational. The text systematically pits European elites against their own peoples. It accuses those elites of using regulations to impose deeper European integration and more open migration policies. Such policies are portrayed as a form of civilizational erasure that poses an existential threat to Europe. All of this being said, we have to be careful to not overstate the importance of MAGA itself in global fascism. It's just a particular manifestation of it, and universal MAGA isn't so much a real tangible material thing as much as it is a tool for categorizing, ordering, and understanding a phenomenon, just like generic fascism. Should Donald Trump die or fade into obscurity, the underlying groupuscular right will survive. The adaptations they have picked up along the way will form the basis from which they adapt once more.
Surprisingly, these players were largely African. Who could have guessed? Yeah, what a surprise. I can't believe that. That the rich white capitalists reinvented slavery. That's crazy. Who would have thunk?
How do we fight back against all this? The left need both strategy and tactics to this end. The work that I do often concerns countering one metapolitical tactic of online fascism.
This part is very
the
interesting.
Historical counter-narratives being spread with the goal of destroying the stable foundations of history on which you stand and from which you base your understanding of the world. If they're allowed to do this, to destroy the foundation, they leave you in the shifting sands of uncertainty, from which the fascists can build you a new foundation, from which you begin to understand the world anew in a perverse manner. Tackling each individual counter-narrative isn't that hard, because they're poorly constructed and lacking in evidence. By showing how these people are frequently wrong, if not outright stupid, and by citing solid evidence for this assertion, I provide a more compelling alternative to what they're saying. Truthfulness and transparency is very compelling. If you want to support my work, the best way to do so is through my Patreon linked below. But, even so, this is a limited tactic to fight against one specific application of metapolitics. This isn't a larger strategy for winning a war. Roger Griffin uses the analogy of the Maginot Line, an impressive series of fortifications that you don't actually have to fight your way through if you just go around it. Similarly, there are routes with more or less resistance that fascists can take to circumvent defenses built against them. Since this fascism is so decentralized and so fragmented, returning as easily as it is crushed, a true defeat of fascism requires us to step into a post-fascist era. To get to this post-fascist era, a larger strategy is required, one that encompasses everyone and everything. Quoting Roger Griffin, "Human beings desperately need to become friends, not just of thought, but of..."
This is something I've been thinking about as well, like what is the most effective way of fighting fascism? And the thing is, like, there's not one specific way of fighting fascism. It is a whole battlefield. Like, it is a not just a whole battlefield. It is a whole ass war. It's a whole ass war, and there's a lot of different fronts. And I don't know if this is like a common way of thinking about it or something. Maybe I read it somewhere at some point a long time ago. But I'm just like a little bit surprised that what Fred is saying is very like similar to what I've been thinking about for a while. And my conclusion is basically that there are a lot of different ways of fighting fascism. Find your niche and expand on that. The thing that we need leftists to understand is that it's like, you know, there are a lot of different tactics and we should explore different tactics. And most importantly, don't work against other leftists. Leftists, for too much time, like European leftists, spend too much time beefing with each other and refuse to work with other leftist groups because of real or perceived differences. A lot of these differences, I would say, are inconsequential, and even if they are, you know, not inconsequential, I think, like, even if some of these grievances are, I would say, valid, they're still inconsequential, considering that we are facing down a fascist future. Like the reawakening of fascism in a very cringe way, but it's happening nonetheless, even if it's incredibly more cringe than usual. Also, I need to do my Duolingo, so I'm gonna do that real quick.
Each other and of the planet which sustains our whole species. This implies an enormous redistribution of economic wealth and economic power, as well as a vast paradigm shift in the hegemonic cosmology of Western so-called liberal modernity. It is only then that fascism and all other forms of politicized racism, whether ethnocentric or differentialist, could ever truly be a thing of the past. Thank you so much for watching, and apologies that it took so long for another video to be released. Now I urge you to either go to my Patreon or to listen to my newly released podcast that I worked on with Mike from PA and Ugopnik, called The Reaction Podcast. In addition, I would like to thank all these special people for supporting me at the $10 tier on Patreon. Monday's Last Brain Cell, Jordan M, Vishire, Hengamer, Keenan F, Jesse F, Youngjin S, Gil the Dragon, The History Enjoyer, Shimon, Willow B, Janfronten, Liquideo,
That's me!
Khalifa A, CT Oldsmobile, and Dekanen. From the bottom of my heart, thank you all so much.
Whoa, there you go. I helped make the video, guys. There you go. I got my credits. That was a really good video by Freda. I'm gonna link it again in chat. Be sure to put it up on the side. Really, really great. Freda is great. I'm gonna shout him out again since we finally finished the video. That took a while. I didn't know we were posting so much. I'm surprised by it, because we took a while to watch this video. I feel like almost 2 hours. Il est indien et il est très agréable. C'est mon ami. C'est mon ami. Alright, we're gonna do some Duolingo and then... actually, let me check something. Okay. We should probably... Yeah, I'll probably end this stream quite soon, so I get to ensure that I get a good amount of sleep. Il était une fois un Péruvien qui rêva qu'il mangeait sa chaussure. There was one time a Peruvian who did something, who ate something, they ate a shoe. Il se réveilla en sursaut au milieu de la nuit et constata que son rêve était devenu réalité. They something woke up to the something night of something that their whatever new reality. Something like that. Ce Maxent est sur l'avenue Marie Curie. Il y a combien d'arrondissements à Paris? Beaucoup de ponts traversent la Seine. Si tu t'es retourné, je vais prendre une photo. There was a man from Peru who dreamed he was eating his shoe. He woke with a fright in the middle of the night to find that his dream had come true. Did you like think that one up, or did you just like how did you think of that one? Did you find it online or something? Sleep, who even does that? Good question. Me, hopefully soon, if I'm able to fall asleep. I've not been able to sleep well, fall asleep very well the last few days, which is very annoying. Montmartre est un très joli quartier. Excusez-moi, pouvez-vous me dire où je peux trouver des timbres? Le Louvre est au nord de la Seine. It's a SpongeBob quote?
Retourner à Paris.
What? Nous voulons retourner à Paris. Ce n'est pas à l'ouest de Paris. J'ai le guide de toutes les capitales européennes. What is my current quest on Duolingo? Is it read the next story in your path? I hope not. Oh, yes, it is. Shit. I don't want to do that. I can't be asked to do that. Damn it. Okay, whatever. Okay. It probably... Alright, I'm not sure when... Okay, I don't think Raph is gonna be on very soon. It's this? Okay, let's put that up. Okay. Let me just save real quick and we'll watch that video, then we shall end. Stream sesh 02. There we go. And exit game. Alright. This one, close that. Put this up here. Alright, what is... Oh.
Here's one you might know. There once was a man from Peru who dreamed he was eating his shoe. He awoke with a fright in the middle of the night to find that his dream had come true.
Incredible. Very important stuff. Wait. Okay, real quick, what is this?
More to it. We'll look at some of the other...
Oh, okay. I just saw like...
here, we'll get into...
I saw something else. That... Whatever. Alright, stick around for the raid, everyone. I just saw Hassan, that Fox News had talked about Hassan. Hello, Mr. Shimon. Are you a tanky? Some people might consider me that. I don't like using... I wouldn't consider myself a tanky. And I don't like using the term tanky because I think it's an unproductive, just kind of stupid term. That doesn't really describe much. If anything, it kind of like lends credence to supposed tankies, in my opinion. Because like they were right in a lot of these things being color revolutions. I do like my tanks. Yeah, in that aspect, I'm very much a tanky. Also, you're joining like at like the end of the stream. But you're welcome to join again in the future. You should, in fact, you should follow right now, so that you will not miss the next stream. You should follow right now and turn on the bell or whatever the shit it's called. And who knows? Maybe we'll watch average Buddhist versus pagan debate, or learn about bad Soviet art children, or Kirk's Sun in the Sky, Chinese propaganda music. You know, all the options are there. If you just came in here to write that, then you're very boring and you're a coward. Oh wait, no, you're Hazanami, so I don't feel comfortable doing that. That's up to you, mate. I mean, it's up to you. Next time I stream, you will have an opportunity to debate me if you want. I can't wait to hear your great ideas. What was I looking for? Right, we're going to raid someone, so please everyone stay in the chat so we can do a nice little raid. Alright, goodbye, so conned. I'm very curious about who this person follows. There's some mod tools for that we should probably spread in the mod scene. Right, everyone stay around for the raid. We're gonna do a raid, we're gonna do a raid, we're gonna do a raid. I see Becca is streaming, so let us raid Becca. I'm not sure if I've raided them before, so let's do so. Alright everyone, thank you very much for watching, and thank you Way Too Cold for being an awesome moderator and also sharing the raid message. I can share, but I'm not sure if it's worth it. It's up to you. We're not going to watch anything about now, so I'm literally ending stream. Alright, thanks everyone for watching. Go forth and raid Becca, say hi from me, and have a very lovely evening or morning or whatever time it is for you. And I shall see you again soon. Inshallah. Alright, wait. Right, still 10 seconds. I need to wait for the timer to go down. Everyone prepare for the raid. Grab your axes and whatever, hammers, warhammers, swords, and all that shit. Right, go for the raid. Take care, everyone. Toodle pips. Assalamu alaikum.